Chapter 61. The father of 30 children breaks through to the fourth layer of Qi refinement. _1. Could it be that this peach blossom immortal is some kind of flower thief? Otherwise, what upstanding person would cultivate such a goo? Not only does it shape an attractive appearance to the opposite sex, but it also enhances one's peach blossom luck, and employs such despicable methods. Having fully grasped the effects of the peach blossom goo, Lu Changxing couldn't help but shake his head. However, he did not mind these aspects. After all, whether something is good or bad depends on the user. Being an upright gentleman like himself, even if the peach blossom goo was indecent, he would put it to good use. The next moment, Lu Changxing put away the peach blossom goo. The peach blossom goo flew directly to the center of his forehead, forming a pink peach blossom petal mark on his brow. In the time that followed, this peach blossom goo would subtly improve his physical condition and imperceptibly boost his peach blossom luck. Lu Changxing touched the peach blossom mark on his forehead and, with a thought, the mark immediately dimmed and disappeared from view. Normally, if he didn't use the peach blossom goo, this peach blossom mark could stay hidden from view. It would only appear when he used the 5 accumulations peach blossom miasma. Otherwise, it would be rather odd, and somewhat effeminate, for a grown man to have a peach blossom mark on his forehead. I'm here on Jianghu mountain all day and never go out. I wonder if this peach blossom luck will be of any use? Thinking about that young miss, Lu Changxing couldn't help but feel a sense of expectation. He left the practice room to see that the night had already grown dark outside. Lu Changxing went to a secluded courtyard, picked up Jiao'er and Shu'er, his 2 favored concubines, and carried them to the bedchamber to start his efforts. He had been giving both of them special attention lately, but neither had become pregnant yet. Lu Changxing was not concerned about this. He had checked and found nothing wrong with the women's health. They were fertile. With persistent efforts, success would come sooner or later. Moreover, such matters were not only about the results, but also about fully experiencing and savoring the process. Afterward, Lu Changxing lay back comfortably on the bedchamber, his palm gently stroking the 2 women's red and blue hair, as smooth as satin. Despite having shared the bed and been attended to many times over such a long period, he still found himself insatiable, feeling immense enjoyment. 6 days later, Lu Changxing found out that Shu'er had successfully conceived, and there was a new breath of life in her womb. Likewise, after his nightly unwavering efforts, 1 month later, Jiao'er also successfully conceived. Counting the children in the wombs of these 2 favored concubines, Lu Changxing calculated that the total number of his children was exactly 30. Not long ago, his 24th child was born. That meant that once the remaining 6 children were born, the system might give out child money. He was still very much looking forward to the system's child money. After all, at this stage, he couldn't count on his children at all, and could only rely on the system to lend him a hand. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. He had been refining the peach blossom goo for over 2 months now. At first, Lu Changxing had been quite expectant of the peach blossom goo. But as the 2 months passed, he felt that he hadn't undergone any changes, nor had the so-called peach blossom luck appeared. This caused his anticipation to nearly vanish. He no longer paid any attention to the peach blossom goo. After all, in terms of appearance, he was already so handsome that any enhancement from the peach blossom goo would be just gilding the lily for him. As for peach blossom luck, such a nebulous thing wasn't something he had any expectations for. On this day, inside the practice room, while Lu Changxing was sitting in meditation and refining qi, he suddenly felt a throb. The bottleneck where he had been stuck at the 3rd level energy refinement for a year finally showed a trace of loosening. The 4th elder had provided him with guidance on his cultivation practices, helping him understand that this sense of loosening was the opportunity to break through from the 3rd level energy refinement to the 4th level. He instantly took out a yellow dragon elixir from his storage bag and swallowed it, then grasped several spirit stones, closed his eyes to concentrate, and rapidly circulated the returning origin technique. No sooner had the elixir entered his body than it dissolved, rapidly depleting under the operation of spiritual power, as spiritual energy from the spirit stones in his hands surged into his body. Lu Xianxia's spiritual power circulated faster and faster, his spiritual pressure grew greater and greater, even carrying a sense of irresistibility. After a long time. Boom! Lu Xianxia's entire body shook violently, his hair and vestment robe dancing. Filth was secreted from his pores, making his body suddenly feel as light as if it were floating. The spiritual energy in his dantian sea was no longer strand by strand. Instead, it intertwined like streams. Fourth level energy refinement, spiritual energy like streams, the body excretes worldly filth. I've finally broken through to the middle stage of energy refinement. Lu Xianxia opened his eyes, feeling the stream-like spiritual power circulating within him. A sense of joy naturally emerged. A year ago, he had already practiced up to the peak of the third level energy refinement. But he had been stuck for a full year until today when he was finally able to break through. He felt that if it weren't for his 9th grade spiritual root advancing to an 8th grade more than 2 months ago, he would probably have been stuck for even longer. No wonder Hong Yi remained at the third level energy refinement for 3 or 4 years without breaking through to the 4th level. Lu Xianxia also understood why Hong Yi had stayed at this realm for so long. In Jianghu Valley, he enjoyed the benefits of a 2nd grade spiritual vein. His meals consisted of jade bamboo rice, demon beast meat, and spiritual vegetables. He drank spiritual tea and occasionally indulged in spiritual wine, and every month he had a yellow dragon elixir to assist his cultivation. Even under these circumstances, he was still trapped by the bottleneck for so long. Although Hong Yi had an 8th grade spiritual root, in the secular world where spiritual energy was scarce and resources limited, and he was busy with errands, breaking through the bottleneck was even harder. This also made him think of Xiao Xia, who had broken through to the 4th level energy refinement during their 3-year agreement. Thinking about it now, it could only be said that a 4th grade spiritual root was truly terrifying. If it were an upper grade spiritual root, or the legendary Earth Spirit root, heavenly spiritual root, how terrifying they would be. Lu Xianxia didn't think too much about it, stood up, and used a cleansing technique to remove the impurities and filth excreted from his body during the breakthrough. Then he walked out of the practice room somewhat excitedly. It was winter at this time, and snowflakes were fluttering outside, with a layer of pure white snow covering the ground. Although his Jianghu robe offered protection against the heat and cold, the sudden opening of the door and the cold wind that blew in still made Lu Xianxia feel a hint of chill. But it was only a momentary chill. The spiritual power within his body and the vestment robe he wore made the cold dissipate immediately. Unknowingly, I've also been at the Lu family for 5 years. Lu Xianxia looked at the green, vigorous, and sturdy Jianghu bamboos amidst the snowflakes. He thought of the time when he had awakened his previous lives' memories on the heart-questioning platform, after being eliminated by the Qingyan sex examination. He chose to become a son-in-law who entered the Lu family by marriage. Over the past 5 years, relying on his relentless efforts, he had cultivated from an ordinary person to the 4th level energy refinement. He had also fought from being a breeding son-in-law in the Lu family to a son-in-law who married the granddaughter of an elder. Lu Xianxia walked slowly to the front courtyard, seeing a few children in padded jackets running around in the snow playing. A faint smile appeared on his face. These were the fruits of his 5 years of hard work. Chapter 62, Daily Life _1 In the courtyard, a group of children were playing. Daddy. A little girl dressed in a red cotton padded jacket and fur coat, sitting on a swing and nibbling on a hawthorn stick, called out crisply when she saw Lu Xianxia. She then hopped off the swing and ran to Lu Xianxia with her little short legs, pitter-pattering away. She handed the hawthorn stick to Lu Xianxia and said with a smile, "Daddy, it's so sweet." A smile spread across Lu Xianxia's face as he tasted a hawthorn stick. Indeed, it was very sweet, sweet to the core. Casting a glance at Lu Pingan and his sons, who were playing joyfully with the 9 netherhound, Lu Xianxia couldn't help but huff and mock annoyance before scooping up his daughter. He held her slightly cold hands and said softly, "Come, it's cold outside, let's go play inside." Daughters really are more considerate. Lu Xianxia carried his daughter, Lu Shila, into the main hall. There were several braziers placed on each side of the hall with charcoal burning to dispel the chill. His wives and concubines were happily chatting together. However, there were always a few toddlers who had just learned to walk wandering about. Not only did they seem like they could fall at any moment, but they also liked to pick up anything they saw and stuff it into their mouths, requiring constant vigilance. Dada. At that moment, little Lu Xianxia rode over on a mechanical wooden horse and signaled to Lu Changxing to move aside. Lu Changxing saw this and stood his ground, refusing to move. Then Lu Xianxia charged at Lu Changxing with the mechanical wooden horse. The result was the whole person along with the mechanical wooden horse toppled over, leading to a fall on the ground with a pout forming on the little lips as if about to cry. Lu Changxing couldn't help laughing at the sight. He immediately manipulated the mechanical wooden horse with his object manipulating technique to move Dada around his son. Lu Xianxia, who was about to cry, stopped upon seeing this scene. He climbed back onto the wooden horse and ran around happily under Lu Changxing's control, his face brimming with joy. This child had a spiritual root, but he was not precocious or particularly sensible and was just like a normal child. Daddy, hug. Little Ten, who was playing nearby, saw Lu Changxing and staggered over with his little short legs, arms outstretched, asking. With one hand holding Lu Shila, Lu Changxing picked up Little Ten with the other. Seeing her holding a white jade bun, he said, "Give Daddy a bite." Little Ten thought for a moment, then lifted the bun in her hand to him. "Daddy will show you how to eat a big bun in one bite," Lu Changxing said and, in one bite, devoured the white jade bun that was as big as an adult's fist from Little Ten's hand. He astonished Lu Shila, Little Ten, and a few other small ones nearby, who all stared with wide eyes. But the next moment, Little Ten looked down at her empty hand. Where's my bun?" Looking at Lu Changxing smacking his mouth, she pursed her lips in a pout, her face on the verge of tears. It was as if she was saying, "You ate such a big bun all by yourself, without leaving me any." "Husband, why do you always like to tease the children?" Lu Miaoyun, with her belly bulging, walked over and chided. Every time Lu Changxing came over, he would tease the children until they cried and then make them happy again. She thought he was truly idle to no end. Speaking of which, she took a white jade bun from a bamboo steamer nearby and handed it to Little Ten, a motherly smile spreading across her face. "Here, you are, be good, no crying." "Kids are meant to be played with," Lu Changxing said nonchalantly, also taking a white jade bun to eat. The bun tasted very nice, made of flour ground from white jade spirit wheat. Now that he could afford it, aside from everyday meals, Lu Changxing would also buy lots of spiritual materials and spirit food to keep at home for his wife and children to enjoy some sweet treats, prepared by their maid, Qingzhu. With such a diet every day and living on Qingzhu Mountain, the health of his wives and the little ones had improved significantly, robustly vigorous. Not to mention, children brought up this way were bound to become martial arts prodigies as they grew up. "Husband, your aura, you've broken through to the middle stage of energy refinement." At this moment, Lu Miaoyun looked at Lu Changxing, a touch of surprise on her face as she spoke. Having lived with Lu Changxing all the time, she naturally noticed the change in the spiritual power aura emanating from him, which had become much more substantial than usual. "That's right, after grinding for so long, I've finally broken through this barrier," Lu Changxing said with a smile, nodding his head. "Congratulations, husband, on breaking through to the middle stage of energy refinement." Lu Miaoyun's face lit up with a smile. She hugged Lu Changxing's arm and gave it a playful shake, her sparkling eyes full of admiration as she spoke. "Congratulations to my husband. Congratulations to my husband on your breakthrough to the middle stage of qi refinement. Congratulations to my husband on another step forward on the path of immortality." A group of wives and concubines congratulated Lu Changxing one after another. "Wow! Daddy is so amazing. Congratulations, Daddy. Congratulations, Daddy." The children, seeing their mothers doing so, also gathered around Lu Changxing, chirping and shouting excitedly. Lu Changxing laughed heartily. Then, with a smile all over his face, he waved his hand and said, "It's just the 4th level of energy refinement." He had to admit, the feeling of being adored and admired by his wives and children was quite pleasant. It satisfied his sense of male pride immensely. Every time, a sense of pride, happiness, and satisfaction would arise in his heart. Thereafter, Lu Changxing teased the children and chatted with his wives and concubines. This was his daily leisure time for relaxation. Otherwise, staying indoors every day, with nothing to do but cultivate and procreate, the dull life without other entertainment would be bearable for a short time, but truly grinding over the long term. The next day, Lu Changxing rubbed his lower back. The previous night, in celebration of his breakthrough to the middle stage of qi refinement, his wives and concubines bashfully fulfilled some of his requests. It left him almost without rest for the entire night. Your body is your capital for revolution, he sighed softly. Afterwards, he left home and went to the fourth elder's residence. Today wasn't the usual day at the end of the month when the fourth elder taught talisman making and cultivation. Rather, previously, the fourth elder had told him to inform her once he broke through to the fourth level of energy refinement. Although he did not know what it was concerning, having been instructed by his grandmother, Lu Changxing naturally made his way there. After all, this kind of matter wasn't something that needed to be hidden. Son-in-law, the old lady is currently crafting a talisman, and you might need to wait for a while, said the steward of the fourth elder's household, respectfully presenting tea to Lu Changxing. Purple bamboo granny, I'm not in a hurry, go ahead with your duties, Lu Changxing replied to the steward, accepting the tea. About half an hour passed. The fourth elder arrived in the hall. Her attire today was different from usual. She wore a lotus crown on her head and a blue-brown flowing cloud Daoist robe, resembling a female Daoist. She seemed to have shed some of her usual elegance and nobility, instead exuding an air of transcendence and quiet grace. Lu Changxing understood that his grandmother, although a top-level talisman master of the first grade, did not have a high success rate in crafting supreme talismans. Normally, when she needed to craft supreme talismans, she would choose an auspicious day. Then she would proceed with purification rituals, such as cleansing her body, face, hands, etc., and adjust her state to increase the success rate of talisman crafting. Her attire as a female Daoist was also part of her talisman crafting ritual. Lu Changxing rose and bowed in salute, grandmother. Changxing, have you come to see your grandmother for a reason? Asked the fourth elder, smiling kindly at Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing had been married to Lu Miaoyun for more than half a year. In that half year, the fourth elder had observed all of Lu Changxing's actions. Industrious and steady, neither arrogant nor impetuous, and especially gifted in talisman making. This made her increasingly satisfied with this grandson-in-law. She believed that marrying Lu Miaoyun to Lu Changxing was absolutely the right decision. She even started to become unconcerned about Lu Changxing having a multitude of wives and concubines. Because she had realized that Lu Changxing was not as she had known, immersed in the pursuit of female company all day. In this half year, he had not neglected his talisman-making duties, and his performance only improved. Chapter 63, Managing the Spiritual Talisman Shop _1 HM? Changxing, have you broken through to the fourth level energy refinement? At this moment, fourth elder noticed the change in spiritual power emanating from Lu Changxing's body, her face revealing a surprised yet delighted expression. Although Lu Changxing had used the aura concealment technique to hide his internal spiritual power, his mastery of the technique was not profound, merely at the stage of basic proficiency. After all, once he had learned the basics of these fundamental spells, he did not spend too much time or thought on them. As fourth elder possessed the strength of the ninth level energy refinement, with careful observation, she could easily discern the changes in Lu Changxing's cultivation level. Yes, Changxing just broke through to the fourth level energy refinement yesterday, so I came today to inform grandmother. Lu Changxing nodded and responded aloud. Good, good, I didn't expect you to break through to the fourth level energy refinement so quickly, much faster than grandmother had anticipated, fourth elder said as she sat down next to the chair, smiling. Tell me, grandmother, said Lu Changxing, somewhat puzzled. What could someone at his level of fourth level energy refinement do? Our Lu family has a spiritual talisman shop in Nine Dragons Market, and I've been thinking of having you manage it, fourth elder stated. Manage the spiritual talisman shop? Lu Changxing was somewhat astonished upon hearing this. Being a cultivation family, the Lu family naturally had various sources of income. For instance, the mountainous green spiritual bamboo and Bu spiritual bamboo were among the family's main sources of income. The spirit rice, spirit vegetables, and spiritual medicine that they usually cultivated were also sold in the marketplaces in excess of their personal needs. That's why the Lu family also had their own shops in some marketplaces. He knew Nine Dragons Market was a large marketplace relatively close to Jianghu Mountain, established by the dominant power in the area, the Qingyun sect. Having been with the Lu family for so many years and entering its core circles, he had come to understand much more about the family's affairs. Families like the Lu family of Jianghu Mountain, although they claimed to be independent powers, were actually under the rule of the Qingyun sect. Every year, they were obliged to offer a tribute to the Qingyun sect. This was also why Lu Yuanding had been able to go to the Qingyun sect's mountains and recruit discarded disciples for marriage alliances. If you were a power with no connections to the Qingyun sect, would you dare to do such a thing? Back when the Lu family of Jianghu Mountain and the Qin family of Red Leaf Valley fought over the ownership of a spirit stone mine, both families' foundation establishment ancestors had taken action. In the end, it was an elder of Qingyun's sect who intervened to mediate and called a halt to the conflict, telling both families to cease their fight. Of course, the final verdict was that the Qingyun sect took 40% of the mine's profits, leaving the remaining 60% to be evenly split between the Lu family and the Qin family, at 30% each. When Lu Changxing first heard about this, he couldn't help but sigh. Truly, power was the supreme rule. The Lu and Qin families fought to the death over the spirit stone mine's profits, and then the Qingyun sect simply came and took away 40%, with the two families daring not say a word. The fact that this spiritual talisman shop was located in Nine Dragons Market also indicated that among the Lu family's numerous shops, it was quite a decent one. Unexpectedly, Fourth Elder was actually suggesting to put such a shop under his management. Yes, I had previously left Miaoga in charge of the spiritual talisman shop, Fourth Elder confirmed. But as you know, Miaoga has now been promoted to middle grade talisman master and is preparing to charge at the 7th level energy refinement, so she really doesn't have the time or energy to spare. That's why I thought of letting you learn to manage it, she continued. Your grandmother was somewhat apprehensive about you before, but now that you've broken through to the 4th level energy refinement, she feels much more at ease. Consider it a form of practice. Once you're familiar with it, grandmother will hand over the management of the spiritual talisman shop to you directly. The tasks are quite simple: keep an eye on the shop, replenish stock every month, and guide the apprentices occasionally. During this period, your grandmother will also provide you with an additional stipend. The Fourth Elder picked up the tea, took a gentle sip, and spoke slowly. In the Lu family, apart from Lu Changxing, there are a total of 3 talisman masters. Her, Lu Miaoga, and a Lu family disciple who had recently advanced to an elementary talisman master. Now Lu Miaoga needs to concentrate on talisman making and spend time cultivating. She simply doesn't have much leisure time to manage the shop. That Lu family disciple has only just become an elementary talisman master, clearly not suitable. And Lu Changxing is not only a middle-grade talisman master but also her grandson-in-law. She has been quite satisfied with his performance over the past 6 months, essentially recognizing Lu Changxing as one of her own. So she thought of entrusting the shop to Lu Changxing. That would spare them the trouble of hiring a talisman master to preside over the shop. And it would also give Lu Changxing a chance to get involved with the Lu family business, to gain experience and to have a look around outside. After hearing the Fourth Elder's words, Lu Changxing's first impulse was to refuse. He just wanted to live a stable and low-key life in the Lu family. But with the Fourth Elder putting it that way, it would be hard for him to refuse when he had no good reason to do so. After all, in a cultivation family like the Lu family, members enjoy the benefits and treatment the family provides. At a certain age and level of power, they all have to contribute to the family. People like Lu Miaoga, who are talented and also possess an aptitude for talisman making, and who is the daughter of the family head, are no exception. Since he married Lu Miaoyan, he was now considered a member of the Lu family and naturally could not avoid such matters. Moreover, the Fourth Elder intended to entrust him with managing the spiritual talisman shop, which was a kind gesture for his benefit. It would not only bring him an additional income but also put him in charge of some business. He would get to know more things, and his status within the Lu family would also rise significantly. Changxing will abide by grandmother's arrangements, Lu Changxing said after a moment of thought, bowing in response. He also understood that it was unrealistic for him to expect to stay in the Lu family indefinitely without stepping outside or doing anything and still advance to foundation establishment. Since that was the case, he might as well agree. Nine Dragons Market, established by Qingyun sect, was a large marketplace with foundation establishment great cultivators standing guard. Inside the market, few dared to cause trouble. If he were to manage the spiritual talisman shop, he wouldn't need to worry too much about danger. Furthermore, taking care of the shop would mean an extra source of income. And with the thousands of talismans he had stored, he would find it easier to sell them. When it came to buying materials for cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, it would be much more convenient. In the past 6 months, during his talisman trade with Hong Yi's appointed persons, he also asked Hong Yi to purchase materials on his behalf. But it was not only time-consuming, the materials he needed were not always available, and the back-and-forth communications were extremely inconvenient. If he went to Nine Dragons Market himself, buying whatever materials he wanted in the future would become very convenient. The only downside was that life in Nine Dragons Market wouldn't be as comfortable as it was now. Without the benefits of a second-grade spiritual vein and his wives not by his side, he would fall behind in childbearing. However, if he went to the market, he could also look into taking a few fairies with spiritual roots as concubines. After all, when it comes to having children, especially those with spiritual roots, taking concubines is necessary. Perhaps his useless peach blossom goo might prove to be somewhat effective. At the moment, Lu Changxing felt that he hadn't encountered any romantic luck simply because he never left the house, thus the peach blossoms couldn't find their way to him. Alright, then it's settled. When Miaoga returns in a few days, you'll go with her, the fourth elder agreed with a smile. Yes, grandmother, Lu Changxing nodded in agreement. Afterwards, he took 2 boxes of spirit fruit pastries back home from the fourth elder's house. Chapter 64, The Hardworking Li Feiyu _1 After returning home, Lu Changxing spoke to his wives and concubines, including Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenzhen, about his plans to travel to Nine Dragons Market in some time. His wives and concubines reacted with mixed feelings upon hearing this news. They were pleased that Lu Changxing was taking responsibility for the family's enterprise, which was a good thing and demonstrated the Lu family's esteem for him. The worry stemmed from the fact that Lu Changxing would be away from home for a long while, which was quite hard for them to bear. The Nine Dragons Market is not far from Qingzhou Mountain. When the time comes, I can return home once a month, just like the young miss. Once your husband gets acquainted there, I will take you out for a visit too. Lu Changxing said to his wives and concubines. He had always found life in Qingzhou Valley somewhat dull and boring. The wives and concubines naturally felt the same. Therefore, if it turned out to be relatively stable in Nine Dragons Market, he thought of bringing a few of his wives and concubines over to stay and have fun, as a way to unwind. Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. The women were very happy to hear this. Husband, take Xiaoqin with you when you go, suggested Lu Miaoyun. That way, you'll have someone to look after you. Lu Miaoyun spoke up to Lu Changxing at this point. I'm a grown man, I don't need anyone to look after me. Besides, you need Xiaoqin to serve you right now, he replied with a wave of his hand, indicating he didn't need her to come. Husband, just take Xiaoqin with you. If I can't accompany you, let Xiaoqin be by your side, please. Lu Miaoyun immediately bit her tender lip, her large watery eyes gazing at Lu Changxing. At the same time, she gently shook his arm while leaning against him, cooing sweetly in a tender and charming voice. All right, I'll take her, just as you wish, Yuner. Lu Changxing had always been a man to yield to gentleness rather than force. Seeing his wife's coquettish pleading, he indulgently agreed right away. He guessed that Lu Miaoyun wanted him to take Xiaoqin not only for her company but also to have someone keep an eye on him, to prevent him from flirting with other women outside and bringing back a flock of women. However, Lu Changxing didn't mind. He felt it would be fine to take Xiao Qing along. It is easy to go from frugality to luxury, but difficult to go from luxury to frugality. He had been served by others for years and would indeed feel unaccustomed in a place without someone to serve him. Having his own person by his side would be convenient. Moreover, if he really wanted to take additional concubines, it would make no difference whether Xiao Qing was with him or not. But let's first see what the situation is like over there before deciding. We don't even know what it's like right now, Lu Changxing said, pinching his wife's cheek. After all, he was going there for business. Bringing a maidservant without knowing anything about the situation would seem as if he were going for pleasure rather than business, and it would leave a poor impression. Seeing her husband agree, Lu Miaoyan immediately gave a sweet and slightly naive smile. She also understood that preventing her husband from taking new concubines was impossible. But as a woman and a wife, it wasn't possible to just watch and do nothing either. That night, knowing that Lu Changxing would leave home in a few days, all his wives and concubines lovingly attended to him with tender care. After 6 months of cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, nourishing himself with dietary delicacies, and spiritual wine, as well as breaking through to the 4th level energy refinement, Lu Changxing's combat abilities had also greatly increased. However, faced with the devoted affections and relentless attentions of his wives and concubines, Lu Changxing was still overwhelmed. He even suspected that his wives were using this method to remind him not to flirt or take new women in 9 Dragons Market. Once I get to 9 Dragons Market, I should put in more effort to complete the 100 refinements treasure body technique as soon as possible, he thought. Otherwise, if I return home every month, I won't be able to withstand it, and I'll have no face to take concubines or bring new women back home. Lu Changxing lay on his bed, silently musing. The following day, Lu Changxing suddenly remembered his transaction of talismans with Hong Yi. Every 3 months, Hong Yi would send someone to trade talismans, and there was a little over a month left until the next trade. If he went to 9 Dragons Market, he very likely wouldn't be at home when the time came. So, Lu Changxing informed Lu Miaoyan about the talisman trade and gave her 30 pre-drawn talismans. He told her to handle the trade with Hong Yi's envoy when they arrived. Selling some low-quality talismans to a friend isn't something worth hiding. The Lu family knows. Then they know, Hong Yi thought to himself. Moreover, Hong Yi felt that the Lu family might have known about his affair for quite some time. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoyan was very clever in her response, assuring Hong Yi that he could rest easy. Afterward, Hong Yi went to Jianghu Villa, thinking of having a chat with Li Feiyu to see how he had been recently. However, when he arrived at Li Feiyu's home, Li Feiyu was not there. Li Feiyu's wife told Hong Yi that Li Feiyu had gone farming. Surprised by this news, Hong Yi was astonished. After chatting with Li Feiyu's wife, he learned that a few months earlier, after Li Feiyu had become proficient as a spiritual butcher, he also mastered the skills of a spirit planter, the minor cloud rain technique and the Gingjin technique. He then took a job as a spiritual farmer from Uncle Fu. Not only that, sometimes Li Feiyu would also take on work for refining and processing materials. Many low-grade spiritual materials, due to the large amount of impurities they contained, could not be used directly. Therefore, a job was created for cultivators to use their spiritual power to cleanse and refine the materials continuously, removing the impurities. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi didn't know what to say for a moment. He couldn't help but sigh, thinking that cultivation was hard, but survival was even harder. Yet, he also faintly understood that Li Feiyu was working so hard not only to support his family, but also to prepare for the day when he would leave the Lu family. After all, the work of a spiritual butcher alone would be enough for Li Feiyu to support his family. Around noon, Li Feiyu returned, covered in dust and clearly weary, but his eyes were bright and full of energy. Back when he was with the Lu family, he only had the task of having children every day. Now, no longer bound by that duty, his life was hard, but at least it offered a glimmer of hope. After all, the most frightening thing for people is to see no hope at all. Changxing, what brings you here? Li Feiyu was surprised to see Hong Yi at his home. I just came to see how you're doing, Hong Yi said with a smile. He then told Li Feiyu that he would leave the Lu family in some time to head to the Nine Dragons market. If there was anything Li Feiyu needed, he could make purchases on his behalf. Though Jianghu Villa had 100 treasures pavilion, from Hong Yi's perspective, the selection of items available for purchase was quite limited. At the Lu family, valuable items required an application and expenditure of family contributions. Li Feiyu, of course, had nothing to buy. He simply told Hong Yi to be careful outside, and shared some experiences and precautions for traveling out in the world. While what Li Feiyu spoke about pertained to the secular world of martial artists, these principles were equally applicable in the cultivation world. Then, Hong Yi also told Li Feiyu that if there was anything he needed help with, he shouldn't hesitate to ask, and not be embarrassed about it. It would be a real loss if Li Feiyu were to wear himself out with his efforts in the Lu family. Upon hearing this, Li Feiyu somewhat awkwardly requested to borrow some spirit stones. He explained that while working as a spiritual butcher, he learned that the Lu family raised a type of spiritual hog known as black hogs. These black hogs could be sold for around 50 spirit stones each after 3 years of raising. In the past 6 months, he had mastered the breeding process and methods for these black hogs and wished to raise 2 on his own. But the cost for 1 piglet was 6 spirit stones, and he currently did not have enough initial capital, only managing to spare 4 spirit stones. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi couldn't help shaking his head, thinking how determined Li Feiyu was. Not only was he juggling his role as the spiritual butcher and spirit planter, but he was also planning on raising 2 spiritual hogs. However, he also knew that with Li Feiyu's current circumstances, hard work and effort were his only options for cultivation. Right away, Hong Yi took out 20 spirit stones and lent them to Li Feiyu. Hong Yi's personal income at the Lu family amounted to roughly 10 spirit stones monthly. In addition, completing his talisman-making tasks granted him another 10 spirit stones each month, and he could often turn in an extra 3 to 5 talismans for about another 10 spirit stones. Moreover, every 3 months, Hong Yi could also expect over 40 spirit stones from Hong Yi. Therefore, his current income was quite substantial. So, he was able to lend some spirit stones to help Li Feiyu. But Li Feiyu only borrowed 10, stating that 10 would be sufficient, and he could repay them once the spiritual rice from the spirit fields was ready to be harvested. Hong Yi didn't say much in response, understanding Li Feiyu's character. Later, after having a meal at Li Feiyu's place, the 2 men enjoyed some spiritual wine and chatted before Hong Yi took his leave. Chapter 65, The Gift. _1 Before long, more than half a month had passed. One day, the steward from the 4th elder's residence came and requested Lu Changsheng's presence. Upon hearing this, Lu Changsheng immediately followed the steward to the 4th elder's dwelling. As soon as he entered the hall, he saw the 4th elder talking with Lu Miaoge about something. He approached, and with a slight bow, said, "Grandmother, Sister Miaoge." Having studied talisman making under the 4th elder for so long, his manner of addressing Lu Miaoge had also changed, becoming much more intimate. However, this intimacy was not the kind he desired. "Changsheng, you are here." Seeing Lu Changsheng arrive, the 4th elder smiled and nodded, saying, "I have already discussed with Miaoge the matter of you accompanying her to manage the spiritual talisman shop in the 9 Dragons market. You will follow my Ayage's arrangements when the time comes. She will also be in the 9 Dragons market for the next period, so you should ask her for advice often." So said the 4th elder. "Yes, grandmother." Lu Changsheng nodded and turning towards Lu Miaoge, bowed again. "They'll be relying on Sister Miaoge from now on. It's no trouble." Lu Miaoge gently shook her head, her voice always soft-spoken and gentle as water. "Changsheng, you rarely go out, so for this trip, grandmother has prepared some gifts for you," the 4th elder said to Lu Changsheng. In the midst of her words, she took out 3 brocade boxes of different sizes from her storage bag and placed them on the table. Thank you, grandmother." Lu Changsheng's eyes brightened upon hearing this, curious about the 4th elder's gifts. His grandmother was an elder of the Lu family, a top-level talisman master of the 1st grade. Her gifts would certainly be generous. "Open them and see." the fourth elder said with a smile. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoge also looked on curiously, wondering what gifts her great-aunt had prepared for Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing opened the first long-shaped brocade box. Inside lay a 3-foot-long sword in a green scabbard, with a tassel of green threads. This magical sword is named Green Face, and it is a middle-grade magic artifact. However, it contains a trace of green goldstone, making its sharpness far superior to others of its grade and very suitable for you to use now. The fourth elder introduced. Lu Changxing was surprised as he looked at the green face sword in front of him. He had not expected his great-aunt to be so generous as to gift a middle-grade magical instrument. Lower-grade magical instruments typically cost around 50 spirit stones. Middle-grade magical instruments cost around 150 spirit stones. Although after breaking through to the middle stage of energy refinement, one can employ a middle-grade flying sword, many cultivators at the late stage of energy refinement cannot afford, or are unwilling to purchase, a middle-grade magical instrument. Like those 3 robber cultivators he had killed on Bullhead Mountain, they had the cultivation levels of the 6th and 7th level of energy refinement, yet they all wielded lower-grade magical instruments. And this green-face sword was clearly not just an ordinary middle-grade magical instrument. Its price was likely around 200 spirit stones. Thank you, grandmother. Lu Changxing expressed his thanks and picked up the magical sword. It was slightly heavy and cool to the touch. The scabbard was entirely green like jade. The scabbard bore gold inlaid patterns, and the tassel was gold, clearly decorative additions made afterward. Magical swords like this one can generally change in size according to one's will. Seeing this style of magical sword, he knew that it was not in the same league as the flying sword he had obtained from Bullhead Mountain. It was clearly a high-end flying sword. Because with flying swords, the most common feature is sharpness, practicality. Only high-end flying swords would have effort put into their appearance. Lu Changxing pulled the sword from its sheath. The blade was entirely silver-white, but the surface had a faint halo of green gold flowing over it, the cold light flickering. The fourth elder smiled and directly opened the second brocade box. Within the second box lay an exquisite and majestic vestment robe, with the light shimmering over its sky-blue fabric, edged with gold embroidery. For managing the shop on this outing, you should dress well to reflect your status. This is a middle-grade magical robe with a total of 7 magical array effects: size adjustment, dust avoidance, springtime warmth, wind transformation, concealment, spirit concentration, and body protection. I won't go into detail about the first 3 effects, as they are similar to the ones on your current Qingzhou robe. Wind transformation allows fierce winds to be softened into gentle breezes. Grandma has applied for an iron feather eagle from the family for you, so your future travels to and from the 9 Dragons marketplace will be much more convenient. The wind transformation effect of this robe will allow you to ride the iron feather eagle without being affected by strong winds, without the need to expend mana to resist them. Grandma knows you don't like to show off. The concealment function allows the robe's radiance to be contained, making it appear like ordinary clothing and not attracting attention. The spirit concentration effect can gather a small scope of concentrated spirit energy, which is somewhat helpful for your cultivation. The body protection effect can passively trigger a body protecting technique when you're in danger, capable of blocking a single hit from a cultivator at the 7th level energy refinement. The fourth elder spoke slowly, introducing the magical robe to Lu Changxing. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing's face lit up with surprise. A middle-grade magical robe. The robe he was currently wearing was the Qingzhou robe awarded to him by Lu Yuanding for being the first child born into the Lu family. It didn't even count as a lower-grade magical instrument. It had only 3 basic effects: size adjustment, springtime warmth, and dust avoidance. But this middle-grade magical robe boasted 7 effects in total. For more than the original, including spirit concentration, wind transformation, concealment, and body protection. Especially body protection. The ability to passively trigger a body-protecting technique when in danger, capable of blocking a single hit from a cultivator at the middle stage of energy refinement, was incredibly delightful to Lu Changxing. With this robe, he no longer had to worry about being ambushed by other martial artists or cultivators up close. Thank you, Grandma. Lu Changxing bowed his hands in gratitude once again, his face full of joy. In this moment, he couldn't help but feel appreciative of his grandmother's generous gesture. A middle-grade magical instrument was worth 150 spirit stones. That usually referred to magical swords and the like. The price of a robe would be considerably higher. This middle-grade magical robe was estimated to be worth 200 spirit stones. With the green face sword and this robe, the cost was over 400 spirit stones. And what's more, this gift was not just expensive, his grandmother had also put a lot of thought into it, covering every aspect thoroughly. Lu Changxing had thought he would be riding a spirit steed to the Nine Dragons marketplace. Unexpectedly, the fourth elder had secured him a flying mount. In the Lu family, flight mounts were also scarce and very rare. The fourth elder smiled, opened the third brocade box, and cheerfully said, "These are a few talismans I've drawn myself for you to carry for protection." There were a total of 3 talismans inside. Lu Changxing recognized these 3 talismans at a glance. Superior Grade Talisman, Thunder Summoning Talisman. Superior Grade Talisman, Escape Talisman. Supreme Talisman, Thunder Talisman. The Thunder Summoning Talisman and the Escape Talisman, both being rather difficult superior grade talismans, could sell for 40 to 50 spirit stones each if put on the market. The Supreme Talisman, Thunder Talisman, was even more valuable, worth at least 200 spirit stones. With the green face sword, the middle grade magical robe, and these 3 talismans, the total value was at least 700 spirit stones. Back when Lu Changxing was on Bullhead Mountain, after killing 3 robber cultivators, his total gains amounted to roughly 500 spirit stones, which was already a considerable fortune. But at this moment, the fourth elder directly presented him with gifts worth over 700 spirit stones, a truly grand gesture. "Thank you, Grandma." This gift made Lu Changxing somewhat moved. He bowed and earnestly said. Indeed, it was because he had value that the Lu family, and the fourth elder before him, treated him so well. But many things are judged by actions rather than intentions, and at least the kindness of the fourth elder before him was genuine. All this, Lu Changxing remembered in his heart. We're all family here. There's no need for thanks when a grandmother gives something to her grandson, the fourth elder said gently to Lu Changxing. Upon hearing this, Lu Changxing looked at the fourth elder and showed a sincere smile, nodding his head and saying, "Yes, Grandma." "Changxing, do you recognize these 3 talismans?" The fourth elder pointed to the 3 talismans in the brocade box and asked. Chapter 66, Magic Artifact, Magical Robe. _1 Grandmother, I naturally recognize these 3 talismans, Lu Changxing said. This one is a superior grade talisman, the Thunder Summoning Talisman, which can unleash a bolt of lightning comparable to a full strike from a 9th level energy refinement cultivator. This is a superior grade talisman, the Escape Talisman, which, when used, can conceal one's form and burrow into the ground, escaping several miles away. And this is a Supreme Talisman, the Thunder Talisman, releasing a bolt of lightning upon activation, equivalent to a peak 9th level energy refinement cultivator's full force strike. Lu Changxing spoke gravely. He could naturally tell that these 3 talismans had been specially prepared for him by the fourth elder, to protect him in case of any danger or mishaps. With these 3 talismans by his side, as long as he didn't encounter a Foundation establishment great cultivator, he basically had the power to protect himself. That's right, it seems you have been studying seriously, Changxing. These should not pose a challenge for you. Keep these items, and put on this magical robe for grandmother to see, the fourth elder said with a smile, reaching out her palm and gently touching Lu Changxing's head with a tender voice. Yes. Lu Changxing nodded, put away the 3 brocade boxes, and went to a side hall to change clothes. Lu Miaoge, who was at the side, also showed surprise in her eyes upon seeing these 3 gifts. Surprised at how generous her great-grandmother was. Although her great-grandmother was a talisman master and had much more wealth than the average cultivator, cultivators always seemed to spend as much as they earned. There was no habit of saving money, they would instead convert all resources into personal cultivation and strength. Therefore, This gift worth more than 700 spirit stones could really be considered a grand gesture. Moreover, the fourth elder had also put thought into these 3 items, all according to Lu Changsheng's current situation. Even though she couldn't help but envy the favoritism her great-grandmother showed towards Lu Changsheng, in her heart, she also understood the probable reason. On one hand, her great-grandmother wanted Lu Changsheng to fully integrate into the Lu family. On the other hand, it was also because of how Lu Changsheng had conducted himself in the past half-year, earning the liking of the fourth elder. Almost treated by the fourth elder as a biological grandson. That's why she was so indulgent and generous. Lu Changsheng came to the side hall. He took off the Qingzhu robe he had been wearing for 5 years. He put on the middle-grade magic artifact magical robe given by the fourth elder. Perhaps it was because the clan color of the Lu family of Qingzhu Mountain was green. Or maybe the fourth elder had always seen him in a green robe. Thus, the magical sword and the robe she gave were both green. However, having lived with the Lu family for so many years and always wearing the Qingzhu robe, Lu Changsheng had grown accustomed to the color and found it pleasing to the eye. The style of this magical robe was similar to the Qingzhu robe. But it obviously looked several classes higher, far more exquisite and luxurious. The sky blue brocade robe was embroidered with lifelike and vibrant bamboo leaves in a darker blue thread, with a layer of elegant and intricate gold thread trimming decorating the collar and cuffs. With the enhancement of formation, a faint spiritual light emerged while the robe was worn. As the saying goes, clothes make the man just as the saddle makes the horse. The already handsome and dashing Lu Changsheng looked even more distinguished with the embellishment of this robe. As expected of a middle-grade magic artifact robe, the experience of wearing it is clearly different, Lu Changsheng mused to himself, feeling joyful like a child getting new clothes during New Year in his previous life. He delightedly caressed the silky smooth magical robe, enjoying the wonderful feeling. Wearing it felt as light as a feather, which made him sense a clear difference from the Qingzhu robe he previously wore. As a middle-grade magic artifact robe, it didn't only possess the effect of 7 major formations, but its fabric was also incredibly durable, woven from demon beast fur and other spiritual materials. Being impervious to water and fire, and immune to the cut of blades were just the basic features, which didn't need to be mentioned further. Lu Changsheng tried to sense the self-dimming array within the magical robe. Instantly, the spiritual light on the magical robe faded and became restrained, and the fabric appeared plain. It now looked like a rather exquisite piece of brocade clothing. That looks much more normal, otherwise it's too conspicuous, practically telling others, I am a fat sheep. Lu Changsheng looked at the now discreet appearance of the magical robe and clicked his tongue. He thought highly of the effect of the self-dimming array, finding it perfect for himself, and decided that in the future, his clothes must have this feature. Then, he switched the self-dimming array off, letting the robe shine with spiritual light again. He attached the green-face sword to his waist and walked out of the side chamber with a composed and serene demeanor. Inside the main hall. When the fourth elder saw Lu Changsheng, with his handsome, clear-cut features, tall and slender figure, wearing a sky-blue vestment robe with embroidered golden bamboo edges, and a jade longsword at his waist, his eyes lit up. A gentle and rich expression appeared on his gentle face, as he said with an affectionate smile of an elder, not bad. It seems my Changsheng was born to wear such magical robes, very handsome. Having practiced the immortal beauty technique for so many years and having received the peach blossom goo, Lu Changsheng's face could certainly be described as striking, with an extraordinary temperament. In terms of the immortal beauty technique, it was an outstanding peak, a half-step beyond the ordinary. With handsome features and a gentle temperament, his deep-set features came together just right, making him extremely pleasant to look at. It was like basking in the spring breeze. Now donning the magical robe with spiritual light circulating around him, the gentle and unhurried elegance of his temperament gained an air of immortality as if he were an exile from the heavens. It's all thanks to grandmother's good eye for clothes. Lu Changsheng responded generously, his temperament soft and gentle as jade or a spring breeze. Grandmother speaks the truth, Changsheng, you truly fit this kind of magical robe tremendously, giving off an aura of immortality, the fourth elder said with a smile. Then, he looked towards Lu Miaoge, right, Miaoge? Lu Miaoge, standing to the side, looked at Lu Changxing. She had to admit that he looked indeed very handsome. She had seen men with better looks than Lu Changxing before. But she had never seen someone like Lu Changxing, who had a harmonious blend of features, skin, physique, posture, and temperament. There was an indescribable harmony and comfort to his presence, making him exceedingly pleasant to behold, naturally engendering goodwill in others. Especially at this moment, with the robe's spiritual light swirling around him, it perfectly complemented Lu Changxing's physique and aura. He bore quite the air of a celestial being. Brother-in-law Changxing really suits this kind of magical robe. It's also thanks to great-grandma's discerning taste in knowing what clothes suit Changxing best, Lu Miaoge said with a light smile, her voice as gentle as a cloud. Lu Changxing chuckled, not expecting this young lady to have such high emotional intelligence. Changxing, remember to go to Lu later to get the iron feather eagle. I've already spoken with Lu, the fourth elder said with a smile. In 2 days, you will depart for the 9 Dragons market with Miaoge. Spend these next 2 days at home, keeping Miaoyun and the others company. The fourth elder walked up with a smile, straightened Lu Changxing's collar, and smoothed out the creases of the robe. This caring and doting gesture from an elder moved Lu Changxing deeply. The heart is made of flesh. Over the past 6 months, this fourth elder had been nothing short of wonderful to him. He nodded and replied, "Rest assured, grandmother." After that, the fourth elder gave further guidance to him and Lu Miaoge on talisman making. At present, Lu Changxing's talent for talisman crafting was on the right path. The fourth elder and Lu Miaoge had also more or less come to accept that Lu Changxing was indeed a 1 in a million talent in the talisman path. Lu Changxing estimated that with another couple of years' practice, he would be able to reveal himself as a superior grade talisman master. At that time, his standard of living would rise yet another step. He was quite looking forward to it. If he became a superior grade talisman master, he wondered if the Lu family would marry more sisters to him in order to win him over and deepen his ties with the family. At noon, the two left the residence of the fourth elder. Lu Changxing made the magical robe's spiritual light discreet and went to Lu Ba's residence to collect the iron feather eagle. Chapter 67, Iron Feather Eagle. _1 Lu Changxing, you've come to collect the iron feather eagle, haven't you? Lu Bo recognized Lu Changxing's intention as soon as he saw him. He glanced at the magical robe Lu Changxing was wearing. Although after the spiritual light dimmed, the robe looked like ordinary fine clothing. But upon close inspection, differences could still be discerned from the fabric and craftsmanship compared to regular clothes. Yes, Lu Bo, I will be heading to the 9 Dragons market in a couple of days, so the fourth elder sent me to collect an iron feather eagle from you, Lu Changxing said with a smile, nodding. The 9 Dragons market is good, a fine place. It's not far from Jianghu mountain and it's safe. When you're young, you should go out and see the world, to gain experience, Lu Bo said, nodding with a smile. Lu Bo took out a yellow leather bag and a coppery yellow token, handing them to Lu Changxing. This is your iron feather eagle. The spiritual pet bag works the same as a storage bag, and this beast control token will allow you to communicate simply with the iron feather flying eagle and issue commands. You haven't ridden such an iron feather eagle before, so you should get used to it in advance. Let me take you outside to get accustomed to it, continued Lu Bo. Thanks, Lu Bo, Lu Changxing replied with a nod as he took the spiritual pet bag and the beast control token, examining them. This was the first time he had encountered such things. He had previously thought about buying a spiritual pet bag for his 9 Netherhound. Later, he considered it unnecessary since he was not going out, thus he didn't want to waste the money and planned to buy one later. Moreover, Lu Changxing had no intention of taking the 9 Netherhound with him to the 9 Dragons market. The 9 Netherhound was still a first-grade initial stage demon beast, not of much use if taken outside. Better to keep it at home to continue being a playmate for the children. Thereupon, Lu Bo took Lu Changxing out of Jianghu Valley to a spacious open area. Several Lu family disciples were here, practicing their spells and even attempting sword flight. Cultivators at the 3rd level of energy refinement could manipulate a flying sword and thus attempt sword flight. But it was just for the experience of playing around. To truly perform sword flight, one must reach the energy refinement late stage. At that time, the internal spiritual power would be sufficient to support short-distance flight. And a specific flying artifact must be purchased, otherwise, the consumption of spiritual power would still be significant. Lu Bo, brother Changsheng. Brother-in-law, Lu Bo. Upon seeing Lu Changsheng and Lu Bo, these Lu family disciples all greeted them. He, continue with your practice. I'm here to help Changsheng get familiar with the iron feather eagle, Lu Bo said with a nod and a smile toward the group. Upon hearing this, some of the Lu family disciples looked at Lu Changsheng with surprise and envy. One of them asked, Brother Changsheng, are you going out to gain experience? Iron feather eagles served as the Lu family's flying mounts, which only a few members of the family and elders could apply for when traveling. Yes, I'm going to the 9 Dragons market in a few days, Lu Changsheng nodded with a smile, not concealing his intentions. After all, this was no secret. SSS. 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 Hearing this, the gaze of the Lu family disciples towards Lu Changsheng became even more envious. In a cultivation family like the Lu family, once a family disciple reaches a certain age and strength, they're arranged to go out and gain experience. It's not just because they can't be supported indefinitely, but to contribute to the family. Only by venturing out for experience and seeking opportunities could one hope for a slim chance to reach foundation establishment. Otherwise, most disciples with average talent had no hope of establishing their foundation in this lifetime. The experience arranged by the family consisted of sending them to work in various marketplaces. These marketplaces naturally varied in quality. Places like the 9 Dragons Market not only had a good environment but also were close to Jianghu Mountain, making them top-notch destinations. However, only a few outstanding disciples would be arranged to go to the 9 Dragons Market for their experience. For the less fortunate, they might even be assigned to pioneer new territories in certain spiritual lands. They had not expected that Lu Changsheng's arranged outing would not only provide him with an iron feather eagle as a mount but also send him to the 9 Dragons Market. Such treatment was simply enviable. However, knowing that Lu Changsheng was a first-grade middle-grade talisman master, they understood their envy was pointless. They couldn't even dream of becoming middle-grade talisman masters. Even becoming lower-grade talisman masters would be sufficient for a better treatment. Alas, I will also be going out for experience next year. I wonder where I will be arranged to go. In my opinion, as long as it's not pioneering new lands, it's all the same everywhere. The worse and more dangerous the environment, the more opportunities there are. With our talent, if we want to establish our foundation, we have to take the risk. That's right. Although the 9 Dragons Market has a good environment, it is too comfortable and lacks opportunities. But how many can make it through struggle? I'm just an 8th grade spiritual route, I won't even think about foundation establishment. I'd be content to take several wives and concubines like Lu Changsheng in the future. Several Lu family disciples couldn't help but discuss their futures. Despite their dedication to cultivation, they too felt a bit lost about what lay ahead. Lu Bo brought Lu Changsheng to an uninhabited place and said, Lu Changsheng, you can get used to it here. Lu Changsheng nodded, looked toward his spiritual pet bag, and immediately sensed inside a vast eagle with feathers as dark as black iron. His mental spirit gave a slight flicker, and he opened the spiritual pet bag. The iron feather eagle turned into a shadow of dark light and flew out, landing in front of him, standing 2 meters tall with feathers shimmering with a black luster under the sunlight, looking very mighty. Lu Changsheng could faintly sense the emotions of the iron feather eagle through the beast control token in his hand. It harbored some fear toward him. This iron feather eagle has been tamed to lose its wild nature and is very gentle. You can ride it directly. Then, with the beast control token, you just need to give commands with your mental spirit, Lu Bo said, reminding him from the side. Be careful. At first, don't fly too fast, too high, or too far. Okay, Lu Changsheng replied, nodding his head. He cast the light body skill on himself and with a leap, he landed firmly on the eagle's back. First, he squatted on the iron feather eagle, tightly grasping its black iron-like feathers, then conveyed his command to the eagle through the beast control token. Take off. Instantly, the iron feather eagle flapped its wings vigorously and soared swiftly into the sky. Winds howled around Lu Changsheng, making it difficult for him to even keep his eyes open. But the next moment, the wind dispersion formation in his magical robe was activated, emitting a faint glow, dispersing the howling winds and turning them into a gentle breeze. The other Lu family disciples turned to look over when they heard the commotion. Witnessing Lu Changsheng seated on the iron feather eagle, their eyes were filled with immense envy. After all, it was a flying mount. For low-level cultivators, having a flying mount was not only convenient for travel, but it also made for an impressive spectacle. Is this what it feels like to fly? Lu Changsheng pondered, gripping the iron feather eagle tightly, feeling both nervous and excited. This sensation was entirely different from flying in an airplane in his past life. He did not let the iron feather eagle fly too high. If he were to fall from a great height, at the 4th level energy refinement, he wouldn't be able to withstand the fall. There was a reason the iron feather eagle was used as a flying mount by the Lu family. It flew very steadily. And with the effects of the magical robe dispersing the wind, Lu Changsheng felt extremely stable. After riding for a while, Lu Changsheng gradually loosened up and became comfortable. He let go of his grip and sat cross-legged on the eagle's back, letting the iron feather eagle fly through the air with him. After a few laps, Lu Changsheng had the iron feather eagle land. After all, Lu Bo was still waiting for him below. Chapter 68, Going Out for the Second Time. _1, Not bad, Lu Changsheng, you're adjusting quite quickly. Some people are scared of heights and need several days to get used to their first flight. Lu Bo said with a smile after watching Lu Changsheng land. Lu Bo, do you know if this iron feather eagle can carry 2 people when flying? Lu Changsheng asked, looking towards Lu Bo. He felt that the iron feather eagle could carry 2 people without any problems, but he still wanted to ask for confirmation. After all, he planned to take Xiaoqing to the marketplace in a few months. This iron feather eagle is a first-stage initial-level demon beast, not to mention 2 people, it can carry 3, however, with more people, the speed and endurance will both decrease, especially when traveling long distances, Lu Bo said so. He added, remember to take good care of this iron feather eagle. Feed it twice daily with ordinary raw meat, about 30 pounds per meal. Here is a bottle of spirit-nourishing pills. If you're in a hurry and don't have time to feed it, just give it 1 spirit-nourishing pill. Okay, I'm going back first. You can stay here and continue to train, get more used to it. From our Qingzhou mountain to 9 Dragons Market, it takes 2 full days of flight on the iron feather eagle. As Lu Bo spoke, he took out a porcelain bottle. Thank you, Lu Bo. Then I'll continue to get familiar here. Lu Changsheng nodded in thanks, took the spirit-nourishing pills, and after Lu Bo left, he leapt back onto the iron feather eagle to familiarize himself with flying. It was his first time flying, and he found it refreshingly fun. An hour later, Lu Changsheng was more or less used to the iron feather eagle. He was able to stand directly on the eagle's back and clasp his hands behind him. The vigorous wind, softened by the wind-resisting effect of the vestment robe, turned into a gentle breeze that lightly moved his hair and robe, giving him an exceedingly dashing appearance. Feeling that he had about had enough, Lu Changsheng let the iron feather eagle land and jumped off its back. If only I could switch to a white crane, it would look so much better. Looking at the iron feather eagle in front of him, Lu Changsheng thought that with his appearance and temperament, it would be better if the iron feather eagle were a fairy crane. But having a flying mount was already good enough, and there was no need to ask for more. Practicality was paramount. Good looks were something to pursue only when conditions allowed. He put the iron feather eagle back into the spiritual pet bag and thought about the green-face sword given to him by the 4th elder. He tried to take it out and play with it. But without anything to use as a reference for attack, he couldn't really feel the sharpness of the green-face sword. A middle-grade magic artifact is a bit of a strain for me to use now, I can't wield it for long. After playing around for a while, Lu Changsheng put the green-face sword away. The higher the quality of the magic artifact, the more spiritual power it consumed. At his current 4th level energy refinement, he could only wield a middle-grade flying sword. If he were given a high-grade flying sword, he wouldn't have the spiritual power to support it. Of course, this was normal, as the higher the quality of a flying sword, the greater its power. Lu Changxing didn't continue experimenting and returned the green-faced sword to the storage bag, then headed home, thinking that after he went to the Nine Dragons market, he could sell the flying sword and flying daggers he had obtained at Bullhead Mountain for some money. Now that he had the green-faced sword, he no longer needed those. As he reached his house, Lu Changxing turned on the spirit light effect on his vestment robe. Although this effect was very flashy, Lu Changxing had to admit that the spirit light indeed looked good, quite eye-catching. This time, heading home naturally meant showing off to his wives and concubines. Sure enough, the group of wives and concubines, seeing Lu Changxing in this attire, all had sparkling eyes and voiced their admiration. This gave Lu Changxing's masculine pride a nice boost of satisfaction. He thought to himself that on the trip to Nine Dragons Market, he could also buy a vestment robe for each of his wives and children. That way, they wouldn't fear the change of the seasons. However, thinking of his numerous wives and children, even if it was just one robe per person, it would be too expensive for him. So he temporarily dismissed the idea. He decided to wait until he had more money and sold all his talismans before considering it. That night, a group of wives and concubines came to tenderly serve him, unanimously telling Lu Changxing not to remove his clothes. This made Lu Changxing internally sigh that men and women were indeed alike. But the magical robe was not afraid of being spoiled, and with the upcoming trip to Nine Dragons Market and a long separation ahead, Lu Changxing obliged his wives and concubines' little request, indulging them thoroughly. 2 days later. All right, I'm off now. Miaoyun, if anything happens at home, just send a message to me. Lu Changxing, rubbing his slightly sore lower back, bid farewell to his wives. Husband, rest assured, your concubine will manage the household affairs properly. Lu Miaoyun hugged Lu Changxing affectionately and spoke softly. May your journey be smooth, husband. Husband, you must take care of yourself when you're alone outside. Husband, why not let your concubine accompany you? That way, you'll have someone to look after you. Husband, the other wives also spoke up, their expressions filled with reluctance. After many years of living together and having had several children, their affection for Lu Changxing was naturally deep. After all, aside from having married a few more, and his fondness for having children, Lu Changxing truly left nothing to be desired in terms of treating his wives and children, an absolute good man indeed. And in this world, having multiple wives and concubines was considered entirely normal. Besides, Lu Changxing only had a dozen or so, which couldn't be considered many. All right, it's not like I'm going to a faraway place. I'll come back whenever I can, so keep your spirits up, he reassured them. After bidding farewell to his wives and children, Lu Changxing headed to the main hall. He spoke to Lu Miaoge, who was dressed in white, her hair like a cascading waterfall, and her demeanor as elegant as a fairy. She was waiting silently while sipping tea. Sister Miaoge, let's go. Lu Miaoge nodded, stood up and walked out shoulder to shoulder with Lu Changxing. Husband and the eldest missus looked so well matched walking together. They both seemed to exude an air of immortality. Could it be that husband is going to the marketplace and working together with the eldest missus? What are you thinking, silly girl? Since husband has married Sister Miaoyun, how could he possibly be involved with the eldest missus? Several wives, watching Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge walk side by side like a perfect pair, felt a sense of crisis in their hearts. Seeing their figures walk away, Lu Miaoyun also became slightly lost in thought. Do you feel a bit reluctant to leave? Lu Miaoge could see a hint of reluctance on Lu Changxing's face and said softly. A little bit, making Sister Miaoge laugh at me, he said with a nod. Although he could return every month, there was indeed a bit of reluctance in his heart this time departing. Perhaps, that's the taste of home, where there's always something to miss. This issue was raised by me and Madame Lu. We mentioned not having much time to manage the spiritual talisman shop, so that's why we're troubling you, Lu Miaoge said with a hint of apology. No problem, I also want to go out and have a look. One can't always stay inside without ever leaving. Lu Changxing laughed. Though he felt a bit of reluctance, it was just the sorrow of parting. It wasn't something too difficult to bear or too hard to let go of. The aspiration of a great man should be like the Yangtze River rushing eastward to the sea, and not linger in the soft land before one's eyes. His trip to the Nine Dragons Market was not only to manage the spiritual talisman shop but also for other matters. There's no need to elaborate on taking immortals and beauties as concubines. It was imperative to master the 100 refinements treasure body art. Otherwise, after a few more days of recent life, his back really wouldn't be able to withstand it. Moreover, Lu Changxing felt it was necessary to acquire a manual of bedroom techniques, a dual cultivation secret technique. Not to mention using it to enhance his cultivation level, at the very least, he could learn and improve his combat power, reducing deficits. The business of the spiritual talisman shop won't keep you busy. If you miss home, you can come back often. Besides, I will also be in the Nine Dragons Market for the coming period, so you can come back anytime if there's any matter, said Lu Miaoge, with a tone as gentle as water. All right, Lu Changxing nodded without saying much else. From Jianghu Mountain to the Nine Dragons Market, the journey spans about 8,000 miles. However, if we ride the Iron Feather Eagles and fly straight north, we can reach the Nine Dragons Market in 2 days, she explained. Just have your Iron Feather Eagle follow mine, she said. After they left Jianghu Mountain, Lu Miaoge released an Iron Feather Eagle from her spiritual pet bag, speaking in a gentle voice. The Iron Feather Eagle was likely a flying mount uniformly purchased or raised by the Lu family. All right, Lu Changxing nodded, also releasing the Iron Feather Eagle from his spiritual pet bag, and mounted it. Soon after, the 2 Iron Feather Eagles flapped their wings vigorously and quickly ascended into the sky, heading towards the Nine Dragons Market. There shouldn't be any unexpected dangers on the road, right? Lu Changxing thought to himself as Jianghu Mountain grew smaller and smaller. It should be fine, the young miss goes back and forth every month without any incidents, he reassured himself. And with my talisman treasure and so many talismans by my side, as long as I don't encounter a Foundation establishment great cultivator, there shouldn't be any problems. Lu Changxing shook his head, dismissing the fears and worries that came unbid. Chapter 69, Listing Thoughts _1 Today at noon, my book will be going live on the shelves. Since it's going live, naturally, I have to write some thoughts on launching. First of all, I very much appreciate the readers and big shots for following, and for the support for this book. As a newbie to writing, this being my first book, achieving such results is, to tell the truth, really surprising, quite unexpected. When I started writing this book, it was after finishing The Fast Food Gods, eternally evergreen in the world of cultivation. I found it very interesting, felt that Li Ergu was very well suited to be the protagonist, and had some regrets about the damsel in distress storyline, so I decided to use Li Ergu as the protagonist for my book. It so happened that there wasn't much going on at the factory at the end of the year, so I went home early for the new year, and, bored at home, I started writing just for fun. Now that we're going live, I naturally don't feel as casual as I did at the start, and am also somewhat nervous. Mainly, I don't have much confidence in what I'm going to write next, no basis for it. Perhaps screwing bolts day in and day out has numbed me, left me devoid of emotions. That results in me having no enthusiasm for anything I do. Even when writing the novel, I don't put much emotion into it, the whole process is lackluster and doesn't have any fancy face slapping. Then, there's the fact that I have no manuscripts in reserve, and I type slowly, which makes me anxious. To be honest, you might not believe this. I started writing this book in January, typing a few thousand words each day, but considering the relatives I'd have to visit over the new year, I kept holding off on releasing it until February, when I had accumulated 80,000 words. But now, I only have a few chapters left in reserve, which I saved last week. One reason is that I type slowly, poking at the keys with 2 fingers gets me about 1,000 words in an hour, and when I'm stuck, I might dwell on it for hours. The second reason is that I excitedly published my book, but then I only had single-digit collections per day, no one commented, and I felt so discouraged that I didn't write at all for a week. If I hadn't had the few manuscripts saved up, I feel like I would have vanished into thin air. That feeling was truly agonizing. After that, I tried a few recommendations, got some achievements, and found the motivation to take things a bit more seriously, which made me a little afraid of loss, continuously revising the remaining manuscript over and over again. The chapters leading up to the book's launch, I've edited and modified extensively, going back and forth making several adjustments, which also caused delays in my typing and wasted a lot of my reserve drafts. All I can say is, writing a novel is a game of high aspirations and low abilities, and having an obsessive-compulsive disorder is truly problematic. Enough of the nonsense, let's talk about what happens after the launch. The book will go live precisely at noon, and at that time, I will release the few chapters one have saved up. Looking at it, there's a total of 12,000 words, which also meets the rule of 5 updates for a launch, and with what I continue to type today, reaching 15,000 won't be an issue. In any case, I will try to write as much as I can. Regarding additional updates, I'll do 1 extra chapter for every patron and 5 for each alliance leader, plus 1 for every 500 monthly tickets. That should be enough to motivate me, since I have no reserve and type slowly. I can't manage more than that anyway. As for the updates, I'm afraid of jinxing myself by promising too much, so I'll commit to at least 5,000 words. If the first day's performance is good, I'll try to do 7,000, and see if I can push myself not to be so idle. That's it. I thank all the readers and lords for your support, and every person who has voted for, rewarded, and commented on this fledgling author. I also hope that all the readers and lords will consider subscribing in support. Many thanks. Many thanks. Chapter 70, Sister Miaoga, I've never been to this kind of place before. _ 2 days later. 2 iron feather eagles, like sharp swords, shuttled through the clouds and mist. Changsheng, the 9 Dragons Market is just ahead. Get ready to descend. Be careful not to collide with the market's formation, or you'll face an attack from the formation. Clad in a long white dress with raven black hair cascading over her fragrant snow-white shoulders, Lu Miaoga sat elegantly upon an iron feather eagle, transmitting her voice to Lu Changsheng. Okay, Sister Miaoga. Lu Changsheng nodded. He could already see the vast 9 Dragons Market ahead of him. Looking down from high above, the entire marketplace appeared to be even larger than Jianghu Mountain, covering an estimated tens of thousands of acres. It was surrounded by 9 towering peaks, piercing the sky and forming an arch. This was also the origin of the name 9 Dragons Market. On the 9 peaks, one could see terraced fields filled with spirit plants, and around the marketplace, large tracts of spirit fields were cultivated. The interior of the marketplace was obscured by formations, appearing hazy, only allowing a general outline to be discerned, without clear details. As they neared 9 Dragons Market, the number of cultivators coming and going increased significantly. Some rode spiritual birds, some flew with magical instruments, and others steered flying boats. There were also quite a few mounted on demon beast steeds, sprinting across the land or escorting goods. This gave Lu Changsheng a sense of the intense atmosphere of cultivation. Having stayed within Jianghu Mountain all this time, this was his first visit to such a cultivator's marketplace. The Bullhead Mountain back then was just a small gathering place for loose cultivators, not even a proper marketplace, and it lacked the atmosphere of cultivation. A moment later, Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoga safely landed their iron feather eagles next to the entrance of the 9 Dragons Market. While it was called a marketplace, it looked much like a city. It was much more magnificent than Rui County City, which he had visited before. The nearly 100-meter-tall walls of the city lay like a slumbering dragon, connecting and encircling the 9 protected peaks. There was a faint fluctuation of spiritual energy on the city walls, clearly marked with formations. Lu Changsheng felt that the defensive formation of the 9 Dragons Market was an even higher level than that of Jianghu Mountain. But that was to be expected. Jianghu Mountain was a second-grade middle-grade spirit vein. The 9 Dragons Market was rumored to be a second-grade high-grade spirit vein with multiple branches, making it much larger than Jianghu Mountain. Moreover, the 9 Dragons Market was established by the Qinyan sect, naturally equipped with great formations set by an array master. The two reached the entrance gatehouse. The gatehouse towered dozens of meters high, majestic and expansive, making one feel very small when standing before it. There were two Qingyun sect cultivators standing guard at the entrance, with a small pavilion nearby. Every cultivator entering the marketplace had to show an identity token. Without an identity token, one needed to register information and pay spirit stones to get one at the small pavilion. Lu Miaoge told Lu Changxing that the identity token came in temporary and long-term versions. The temporary one cost a single spirit stone and was only valid for half a month. The long-term fee was 10 spirit stones, valid for 2 years. Only those who bought a house in the marketplace or owned a shop could get a free living quota. If the identity token expired and was not renewed on time while one was still inside the marketplace, they would be captured by the Qingyun sect's enforcement team and fined spirit stones. And if they didn't have spirit stones to pay the fine, they would be arrested and put to work to repay the debt. This was also one of the main sources of profit for the establishment of the marketplace. Hearing this, Lu Changxing couldn't help but quietly sigh. No wonder many cultivators avoided coming to such large marketplaces. Although it was safer and more convenient than the outside, for lower-level cultivators, the entry fee was not a small amount. Moreover, after entering the marketplace, they would have to pay for food, lodging, and other expenses. As for buying a house or owning a shop in the marketplace, it was obviously very difficult without even thinking much about it. Indeed, cultivation is difficult, but survival is even harder. Afterwards, Lu Changxing followed the crowd and paid 10 spirit stones to get a long-term identity token. He could later seek reimbursement from the Lu family for these 10 spirit stones. With the identity token in hand, Lu Changxing followed Lu Miaoge into the 9 Dragons Market. Upon entering the city, a bustling street was immediately before his eyes. People were coming and going on the street, men, women, the elderly, and the young, almost all of them cultivators, with pavilions, towers, palaces, and houses lining both sides. The Qingyun sect has regulations: no fighting or causing trouble within the marketplace, arbitrarily setting up stalls, or sleeping on the streets overnight. Once discovered or reported, the enforcement team will come to punish the offender. Moreover, aside from the Qingyun sect's enforcers and foundation establishment great cultivators, ordinary energy refining cultivators are not allowed to fly with instruments or ride mounts or demon beasts within the marketplace. Lu Miaoge transmitted this information to Lu Changxing. Hearing this, Lu Changxing nodded. No wonder he didn't see anyone flying or riding mounts, they were all walking. His confidence in the security environment of the 9 Dragons Market grew. The 9 Dragons Market is divided into 5 areas: east, west, south, north, and center. The central area is also the core of the second-grade spirit vein and is where Qingyun sect disciples live and cultivate. Only a small portion of cave dwellings is open to outsiders. The eastern district is where some cultivator families and wealthy households reside. Our Lu family has a large compound there. You can also stay there if you like. The spiritual energy is between that of a first-grade and middle-grade spirit vein. The western district is where loose cultivators live. The conditions there are relatively worse, but it also has the standard of a first-grade spirit vein. The southern and northern districts are commercial and entertainment areas, with all sorts of inns, taverns, and shops for daily living needs located in these 2 districts. We are now in the northern district, and our Lu family's spiritual talisman shop is just ahead. Lu Miaoge guided Lu Changxing as they walked towards the center of the city, continuously introducing him to the details of the 9 Dragons Market. Chapter 71, Sister Miaoge, I've never been to this kind of place before. Lu Changxing nodded as he listened. It was the first time he had heard Lu Miaoge talk so much. However, he also knew that Lu Miaoge was just a person of few words by nature, usually quiet and seemingly aloof from worldly matters, but actually quite amiable. It was for this reason that she had brought him to 9 Dragons Marketplace, knowing that he was a stranger to this place, and thus she provided such detailed introductions. As they walked along the road, Lu Changxing constantly looked towards the pavilions and lofty buildings on both sides of the street. Drunk Immortal Pavilion, Gathering of Immortals Pavilion, Myriad Treasures Pavilion, Elixir Cauldron Pavilion, 100 Refinement Workshop, Jianghu Workshop. Through the names on the signboards of these pavilions and halls, one could vaguely guess their purposes. Seeing the Drunk Immortal Pavilion with red lanterns hung high and faint sounds of music drifting out, Lu Changxing felt it didn't seem like a proper tavern. Changxing, you're a married man now, better to avoid such places. Not only do they waste money, but they can also affect your cultivation, Lu Miaoga said softly with a hint of shyness in her voice as she saw Lu Changxing looking at the Drunk Immortal Pavilion. Hearing this, the corner of Lu Changxing's mouth twitched. He instantly understood what kind of place the Drunk Immortal Pavilion was. No wonder he vaguely heard sounds of giggling women. He hadn't misheard after all. Indeed, fairies were not only in the mortal world but also in private rooms. Sister Miaoga, I was just wondering why that tavern looked odd, so I took a second glance. I never visit such places, Lu Changxing said, straightening up earnestly. He genuinely had no interest in such places. He was a man with 5 wives, 6 concubines, 2 favored courtesans, and a handmaid. Why would he need to frequent such spots? Even though he constantly thought of taking concubines, specifically fairies, to have his children, he would never go there to persuade a celestial maiden to lead an honest life. Wouldn't that be insane? But the young miss apparently knew about such places. No surprise there, she might not seem of this world, but she is 6 years older than himself. Having frequented the marketplace over the years and managed shops, she could hardly be a completely naive young girl. That's good, then. Lu Miaoga slightly pursed her lips and responded indifferently, not elaborating on the subject. Then she continued to introduce some information to Lu Changxing. Thus, as they talked and walked, almost a quarter of an hour passed, and Lu Miaoga stopped in front of a shop. She said to Lu Changxing, "This is our Lu family's spiritual talisman shop." Lu Changxing looked at the shop in front of him. The shop was a 3-story structure in line with the main street, about 6 zhang high, with carved beams and painted rafters, resplendent yet not gaudy. A signboard reading Qing Zhu Lu's spiritual talisman shop hung above. Shopkeeper. At the entrance of the shop, a youthful girl around 17 or 18, pretty and wearing a work outfit marked with Qing Zhu Lu's spiritual talisman shop, greeted Lu Miaoga with a grace. Then her gaze involuntarily shifted to Lu Changxing by her side, drawn by his handsome appearance and his gentle, jade-like demeanor. Lu Miaoga gave a nod of acknowledgement, cold but polite. She explained to Lu Changxing through a message that this was a receptionist and salesperson for the shop. Currently, the spiritual talisman shop had 1 shopkeeper, 2 apprentices, and 2 receptionist salespersons. The shopkeeper, named Zhang Shan, was a 6th-level energy refinement cultivator who had been working at Lu's spiritual talisman shop for over 10 years. The 2 apprentices, named Li Shi and Wang Wu, had been at the shop for 5 or 6 years. They were descendants of cultivators from 9 Dragons Marketplace with only 9th-grade spiritual roots, but had some talent in talisman making, which led their families to send them to the spiritual talisman shop as apprentices. Their daily work involved drawing talismans and making talisman paper and spiritual ink. The 4th elder who mentioned guiding the apprentices was referring to these 2. Such apprentices were bound by a long-term contract, only requiring food and accommodation, and occasional guidance in talisman making sufficed, without even needing a monthly salary. Learning skills was just like this. Whether it was talisman making, alchemy, artifact refining, every high-threshold skill required perseverance. Even if one didn't succeed in the end, no one could be blamed. As for the 2 receptionist salespeople, they were mortals. Although 9 Dragons Marketplace was a cultivator's marketplace, not everyone there was a cultivator, and many were mortals. Some had come here following cultivators, while others were descendants of cultivators, working and living here. Living in the marketplace was not easy, but as long as they could find a job, even mortals could survive. They could even save up a spirit stone or 2. After all, if one made gold and silver in the common world, in 9 Dragons Marketplace, they earned spirit stones. Lu, come inside for a moment. I have something to talk to you about. Lu Miaoga glanced at the young woman, then walked into the shop with Lu Changxing in tow. The shop was roughly 200 square meters, furnished very simply, with exquisite counters on both sides and in the center, displaying various talismans, as well as talisman paper, spiritual ink, talisman brushes, and other talisman-related items. Shopkeeper. Shopkeeper. In the hall, there was a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s, with a lean face, and a young girl in work attire. Upon seeing Lu Miaoge and Lu Changxing, they bowed and saluted. "Uncle Zhang, call Li Shi and Wang Wu over, I have something to tell you all," Lu Miaoge directed at the lean-faced middle-aged man. "Yes," Zhang Shan responded and went to the inner chamber. In a moment, he returned with two women around 20, pretty, and dressed in Jianghu Lu's spiritual talisman shop work outfits. Though they were cultivators, their cultivation levels were not high, just at the second or third level of qi refinement. "This is Lu Changxing, a middle-grade talisman master of our Lu family. From now on, as I won't have time to manage the shop, Changxing will oversee it. He is now the second master of the shop." Chapter 72, Sister Miaoge, I've never been to this kind of place before. Uncle Zhang, from now on, for any matters concerning the store, you can report directly to Changxing. Li Shi, Wang Wu, if you have any issues, also report directly to the second master. Once everyone had arrived, Lu Miaoge addressed the group. Her tone was cool and brisk, carrying a trace of decisiveness. This let Lu Changxing see another side of the young miss he didn't often witness. In usual interactions with Lu Miaoge, she always appeared detached and refined, with a temperament like water, never quite like this. The five individuals, upon hearing this, were all somewhat surprised and looked at Lu Changxing in astonishment. They had not expected that this handsome and spirited young man would be a middle-grade talisman master. Their new boss in the future. Zhang Shan has met the second master. Li Shi has met the second master. Wang Wu has met the second master. He Lu has met the second master. Sun Qi has met the second master. The five people didn't think much and immediately saluted with their hands. Surprise and astonishment in their eyes were replaced by envy, admiration, respect, and yearning. A middle-grade talisman master, no matter where, could lead a comfortable life. Especially after they heard the name Lu Changxing and surname Lu. They subconsciously thought he was a scion of the Jianghu Lu family. Coming to take over the shop was just for experience and to familiarize himself with life. Handsome, talented, and from a good family, it was truly enviable. Especially for Li Shi, Wang Wu, and the two sales attendants, the way they looked at Lu Changxing had changed. "I'll be troubling you all from now on." Lu Changxing smiled at everyone and slightly bowed his hands. Lu Miaoge had talked to him about the shop before coming. The shop's day-to-day affairs were generally well managed by shopkeeper Zhang Shan, and he didn't need to worry too much. Aside from guiding Li Shi and Wang Wu in talisman making, his main task was to watch over the inventory. The spiritual talisman shop needed to restock its inventory every month. These goods, naturally, could not all rely on the Lu family alone. Superior grade, and even supreme talismans, were mostly drawn by the fourth elder. However, basic talismans and lower to middle grade talismans were mostly acquired from various loose cultivator talisman masters. Although these loose cultivators had cooperated with the Lu family for many years, in terms of quality, it still required the oversight of a talisman master like him, to prevent the issue of inferior quality being passed off as good quality. After all, the items sold in such shops generally cost more than those on loose cultivators' stalls. This increase in price was a guarantee of quality. Materials like talisman paper, spirit ink, and talisman brushes were no exception. Furthermore, sometimes when the shop was out of a certain type of talisman and a customer urgently needed one, he, as a talisman master, would do his best to draw one if he could. After introducing Lu Changxing to the employees, Lu Miaoge didn't say much more and let everyone disperse. She took out a stack of talismans from her storage bag and handed them to Zhang Shan. All were first-grade middle and superior talismans. Every month when she returned, in addition to guidance from the fourth elder in talisman making, she would also bring back a batch of talismans from him. Lu Miaoge told Lu Changsheng that in addition to some middle and superior grade talismans, the fourth elder would also draw 3 first-grade supreme talismans every month. These were the treasures of the spiritual talisman shop, the backbone of their establishment. However, she would not give these 3 supreme talismans to Zhang Shan. Instead, she kept them on her person. If someone wanted them, she would conduct the transaction in person. Afterward, she took Lu Changsheng on a tour of the shop and introduced him to its situation. The shop had 3 floors. The first floor housed the sales hall, a reception room, and a small courtyard in the back. The second floor was where Li Shi and Wang Wu worked and rested. The third floor was designated for the boss Lu Miaoge to rest and sleep, equipped with a living room, bedroom, lounge, talisman room, and storage room. The third floor had restrictions set up, and one needed a token to enter. Then, Lu Miaoge told Lu Changsheng that she rarely stayed there. If Lu Changsheng found it inconvenient to stay at the Lu family's Eastern District mansion, he could also stay here. Lu Changsheng was indifferent. He expressed his preference to first stay at the Lu family mansion in the Eastern District. Having come to Nine Dragons Market, he thought it appropriate to make a visit there. Before coming, the fourth elder had told him that the Nine Dragons Market was not limited to just one spiritual talisman shop, but also included other Lu family businesses. The second elder of the Lu family was in charge of the Lu family's marketplace affairs, and he usually resided in the Nine Dragons Market. He informed him that should he need anything, he could also directly seek out the second elder. So naturally, having arrived, he should pay a visit. This was the way of the family, with many social obligations. Otherwise, he would appear too aloof and asocial. Sister Miaoge, it's getting late, may I treat you to a meal? You'll be burdened with helping me in the days to come, otherwise I'd feel guilty. After taking a tour of the shop with Lu Miaoge and finishing the handover, Lu Changsheng spoke to her. Sure, let's just have something nearby. Lu Miaoge didn't refuse and gave a slight nod. I haven't eaten anything good these 2 days, and I feel like there's no taste in my mouth at all. I've been looking forward to a good meal today, how could I settle for something casual? Sister Miaoge, what's good to eat around here? Lu Changsheng spoke directly. Then let's go to Jade Meal Pavilion next door, I've eaten there several times and the food is very good, Lu Miaoge said thoughtfully. Then let's go, Lu Changsheng nodded. Consequently, the two descended the stairs. At that moment, there were customers in the store examining talisman brushes, with an attendant providing detailed explanations. Even though the attendant was a commoner, they were trained and knew these items inside out. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge didn't linger, gave a slight nod to shopkeeper Zhang Shan to signal their departure, and left the shop. They arrived at a place not too far away, the Jade Meal Pavilion that Lu Miaoge had mentioned. Chapter 73, I am willing to be a concubine for my master. _1 The facade of Jade Meal Pavilion appeared quite ordinary, decorated with simple and modest elegance, not as impressive as the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop. But the business inside was booming, not even mealtime yet, and it was already more than half full. After finding a place to sit down, Lu Miaoge ordered 2 dishes and 2 servings of spirit rice from the server. Seeing this, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but smile. Sister Miaoge, there's no need to be frugal on my account, I've managed to save some spirit stones over the years. His living conditions had improved over the past 6 months. As a result, he had saved quite a few spirit stones. Before heading out, he counted them, a total of 306. He left 30 spirit stones at home for family expenses, and brought the rest with him. So treating Lu Miaoge to a meal didn't mean he had to pinch pennies. 2 dishes are enough for us to eat, more would be a waste, Lu Miaoge said with a light smile. Over the last 6 months, they had become quite familiar with each other while studying talisman making under the fourth elder. That light smile of hers was no longer distant as it was initially, just a polite smile, appearing much more natural. All right, Lu Changsheng replied, not saying much else. It wasn't long before the server brought a basin-sized water lily to their table. The water lily bud opened on its own, revealing 2 dishes and 2 bowls of crystal-clear spirit rice inside, steaming hot and emanating a fragrant aroma. This carp soup is their signature dish, made with red blood carp from the Yu family of Bai Lake Mountain. I order it every time I come here, you should try it, Lu Miaoge pointed out, referring to a dish that was a feast for the senses. Red blood carp from the Yu family of Bai Lake Mountain? Is this restaurant owned by the Yu family of Bai Lake Mountain? Lu Changxing asked in surprise upon hearing this. The Yu family of Bai Lake Mountain was also a major cultivation family under the jurisdiction of the Qingyan sect. With 3 foundation establishment great cultivators in their family, they were 1 level above the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain. The red blood carp was a specialty of Bai Lake Mountain. It was somewhat similar to the green jade bamboo wine and emerald spirit rice of Qingzhou Mountain. The owner of this restaurant married a woman from the Yu family of Bai Lake Mountain, which is why they can consistently get a batch of red blood carp from the Yu family every month, Lu Miaoge explained softly. I see, Lu Changxing nodded, not asking further, and sampled the carp soup. Immediately, he felt a rich yet not greasy delicious taste spread from his mouth to his stomach, then to his abdomen, and finally to his brain, leaving a long-lasting aftertaste. Delicious. Lu Changxing couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. He thought he had become accustomed to exotic delicacies at the Lu family, but this carp soup was indeed exceptional. So the chef here is also a spirit cooking master? Lu Changxing inquired. While the red blood carp was a type of spirit fish, such flavor couldn't be achieved without a spirit cooking master. Correct, the chef here is the owner of the restaurant, and he is a spirit cooking master. The prices here are more affordable compared to other places, so the business is always good, Lu Miaoge said in a soft voice. She then pointed to the other dish. This earth mole meat also tastes excellent and counts as one of their specialties. Lu Changxing tried a piece of the meat, finding it crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, juicy, smooth, and invigorating, and he couldn't help but reach for another piece. Nodding in approval, he said, tasty. At that moment, he noticed Lu Miaoge wasn't eating but was simply watching him enjoy his meal. He promptly said, Sister Miaoge, why aren't you eating? Let's eat together. Okay, Lu Miaoge nodded gently, and only then did she pick up her chopsticks and begin to eat the earth mole meat. Her manner of eating was very elegant, yet she ate quite swiftly. Lu Changxing had only had a few bites when she had already eaten 7 or 8. By the time Lu Changxing had eaten less than half of his bowl of rice, Lu Miaoge was finished. Lu Changxing was somewhat astonished at this sight. Hard to believe that Lu Miaoge, a woman as ethereal as a fairy, could eat at such a pace. I normally eat quite fast, Lu Miaoge, feeling somewhat impolite and embarrassed, blushed on her flawlessly exquisite face. It's fine, it's just that I'm a slow eater, Lu Changxing chuckled, feeling that the young lady before him suddenly seemed even more charming and much more approachable. Indeed, there are not so many pristinely untouchable fairy maidens in the world, it's just that the great difference between 2 people makes one seem unattainable, creating such a perception, an illusion. When the relationship becomes intimate and you spend time together, things turn out to be quite normal. He immediately gestured for the server to add 2 more dishes and some more rice. No need, I'm full, Lu Miaoge said upon seeing this, taking out a handkerchief to gently wipe her mouth. All right, Lu Changxing replied, not insisting, and then finished the rest of the food and went to pay the bill. 2 dishes and 2 servings of spirit rice came to a total of 4 spirit stones. No wonder Lu Miaoge only ordered 2 dishes, because indeed the price was somewhat expensive. When he first joined the Lu family, he earned only 2 spirit stones a month. Now had spent 4 spirit stones on a single meal. However, Lu Changxing wasn't too heartbroken about it. He felt the price was fairly reasonable. The carp soup and earth mole meat were both spirit food, and even the rice was spirit rice, which would be nourishing to the body after eating. He could still feel the spiritual energy flowing slowly through his dantian and meridians. And besides, the process of savoring delicious food was deeply satisfying, very pleasant. Just then, having seen how adorable Lu Miaoge ate, he thought that in the future, when there was no pressing matter, he might often invite Lu Miaoge out to eat, to build a closer relationship. But now, thinking it over, he decided against it. His current financial situation simply didn't allow for it. Maybe after he had sold all his talismans and turned them into spirit stones, it would have been more feasible. Sister Miaoge, is there a place in the Nine Dragons market where loose cultivators set up stalls for trading? Chapter 74, I am willing to be a concubine for my master. Lu Changxing inquired Lu Miaoge. On this trip, he also thought of selling talismans and buying the heavenly and earthly treasures for cultivation of the 100 refinements treasure body art. So he thought of first going to see the loose cultivators' stalls. At the junction of the Western District and the Southern District, there are several streets specifically set aside for people to set up stalls and trade freely. Although the items there are cheaper than in the shops, there are many scams, and there's hardly any chance of getting a good deal by stumbling upon something undervalued. If you're looking to buy something, it's still best to make purchases from legitimate shops. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoge guessed Lu Changsheng's intent and voiced a reminder. I'm just curious about this kind of stall setup, want to take a look and gain some experience, Lu Changsheng said with a smile. He wasn't holding out hope for any treasures or particularly cheap bargains. After all, these loose cultivators are all too shrewd, having struggled at the bottom, without certain means. How could one expect to find a bargain from their hands? In the midst of talking, the two returned to the spiritual talisman shop. Sister Lu. At that moment, a childish voice rang out. Lu Changsheng and Lu Miaoge heard the voice and looked over. In front of them, a dignified-looking young matron with a graceful figure and full-bodied stature, holding a 3 or 4-year-old girl in her arms and carrying a lunchbox, was walking in their direction. It was the small girl in the young matron's arms who was waving to Lu Miaoge and calling out. Master, this young matron wore a plain goose yellow dress, her black glossy hair arranged in a married woman's bun, slanted with an ebony hairpin, giving her a demure and graceful appearance. Upon seeing Lu Miaoge, she also quickened her pace, slightly bowed, and called out softly. Her face might not be exceptionally beautiful, merely fair, with arched eyebrows, crimson lips and almond eyes, and a pert nose, exuding a mature charm. But her skin was very white, whether it was the fair complexion of her cheeks or the skin exposed at the neck, all was snowy white and delicate, soft and pliant to the touch. This creamy white skin, combined with her voluptuous and curvaceous figure, made the young matron look like a ripe peach, giving off a sense of fullness and juiciness. Aunt Bai, Nan Nan, came to deliver a meal to Uncle Zhang. Lu Miaoge obviously knew the two, and greeted them with a slight smile and a nod. She conveyed to Lu Changsheng, this is Zhang Shan's wife and daughter, they come to deliver meals to him every day. Zhang Shan inside the spiritual talisman shop also saw his wife and child arriving and immediately got up and hurried out. First, he gave a slight bow to Lu Miaoge and Lu Changsheng nearby, then explained, Second Master, this is my wife, coming to bring me a meal. No worries, Lu Changxing said with a smile. He knew the latter's explanation was out of concern that the new co-owner might have objections. Such matters, of course, he didn't mind and would not say anything. It just hadn't occurred to him that Zhang Shan seemed to be 50 years old, yet his wife was not only a cultivator but also so young, and their child was only 3 or 4 years old. But on second thought, this was quite normal. Most cultivators were older when they chose to start a family and have children. Moreover, although the woman appeared mature and charming, seemingly in her late 20s, her actual age was not necessarily so. After all, most female cultivators would buy youth-preserving pills, beauty-preserving pills. Like Lu Miaoge, she obviously had taken beauty-preserving pills. Compared to when Lu Changxing first met her 5 years ago, she looked almost the same, still retaining the appearance of a 20-year-old. This made Lu Changxing think about buying beauty-preserving pills for his own wives as well. He practiced the Immortal beauty technique, which not only enhanced his charm but also preserved his youthful appearance forever. But his wives could not, and aside from Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin who were able to practice cultivation, all the others were mortals who would age. However, thinking of the price of the beauty-preserving pills and the need to give gifts, he would have to give more than 10 gifts at once. Lu Changxing could only temporarily dismiss the idea. Lu Miaoge didn't chat much with Zhang Shan either, merely nodding slightly, her expression cool as she led Lu Changxing to the third floor. She usually stayed on the third floor, either cultivating and resting or drawing talismans, rarely on the first floor. Now, the third floor had an additional person, Lu Changxing. However, Lu Miaoge and Lu Changxing were quite familiar with each other and didn't mind sharing a room alone. At this time, Lu Miaoge also told Lu Changxing that although Zhang Shan was an old employee of the shop, he couldn't appear too familiar with him. If they were too close, it would make it difficult to manage later on. Lu Changxing naturally understood this principle and nodded in agreement. Afterward, Lu Miaoge shared with Lu Changxing some shop matters and management experience. These were all simple and easy to understand experiences, most of which Lu Changxing already knew. He had never eaten pork before, but he had seen pigs run. In his past life under the baptism of big data, he knew quite a bit about the art of managing people. Of course, knowing is one thing, doing is another matter altogether. Sister Miaoge, I used to think you were the kind indifferent to worldly affairs, but I didn't expect you to know so much. It's like getting to know you all over again. After listening to Lu Miaoge, Lu Changxing joked with a laugh. Today he surely saw another side of Lu Miaoge, so the conversation was much less restrained than before. Hearing this, Lu Miaoge couldn't help but smile, her beauty blossoming like a celestial flower, captivating. I don't know whether to take your words as a compliment or an insult, but I'll just assume it's a compliment. With painted brows and eyes, Lu Miaoge said with a soft smile, "All right, I have to go make talismans. You can go to the lounge to rest, or cultivate. Normally, there's not much to do at the shop, and Zhang Shan and the others will notify us if anything comes up." Having said so, Lu Miaoge stood up and went to the talisman room to focus on talisman making. Lu Changxing nodded and went to the lounge to rest. Chapter 75. I am willing to be a concubine for my master. After all, they had been traveling for the past 2 days and hadn't really rested. Although they couldn't be considered extremely tired, they still needed to recover their mental spirit through sleep. After a short nap, Lu Changxing saw that Lu Miaoge was still in the talisman room, feeling somewhat bored, so he found something to do and went upstairs. He wanted to check on the talisman-making skills of Li Shi and Wang Wu and planned to give them some guidance on talisman crafting. He possessed the second-rank talisman-making skill given by the system, so his foundational knowledge in talismans was incredibly solid. It was definitely not comparable to those who relied on their self-study and understanding. Not to mention guiding 2 talisman apprentices, even his own grandmother, the 4th elder of the Lu family, a first-grade top-level talisman master, could receive a pointer or 2 from him. Second master. Second master. In the upstairs workroom, Li Shi and Wang Wu, who were making talisman paper, immediately brightened up when they saw Lu Changxing coming over, stopped their work and called out sweetly. Their voices involuntarily softened a few degrees more than usual. "I've come to see how you are progressing with your talisman making, to give you some guidance," Lu Changxing said aloud. Both women were rather good-looking, not incredibly beautiful, but they could definitely be considered pretty. After all, they were the descendants of cultivators, so the genetic aspect was generally not bad. However, he didn't have any particular thoughts about the 2 women in front of him. Although he did want to find a woman with a spiritual root to have children, it was not to the extent of asking any woman he met to bear his children. Moreover, he had just arrived at the shop and hadn't done much. It wouldn't look good if he started making moves on an apprentice. It would not only affect Lu Miaoge and the 4th elder's impression of him, but his reputation, which had just started to improve in the Lu family, would be ruined again. It was unnecessary and not worth it. "Thank you, second master." "Second master, please have a seat." The 2 women looked at Lu Changxing, said in their sweet voices, and prepared the chair and brewed the tea. "What talismans have you learned so far?" Lu Changxing waved his hand and asked. Immediately, the 2 women started to list the talismans they knew. They had been at the spiritual talisman shop for 5 or 6 years and had mastered about a dozen to 20 basic talismans. This was also because, as apprentices, they had to create profits for the shop, so they needed to learn a variety of different talismans. Although basic talismans didn't make much money, as a spiritual talisman shop, it was necessary to have a sufficient variety of talismans. Okay, show me the talismans you have been practicing lately by drawing them for me. Lu Changxing nodded and instructed. Both women immediately took out their talisman brushes, talisman paper, and spirit ink to start the talisman making process. Pfft! At this moment, Li Shi, while halfway through the drawing, failed, and the talisman paper emitted blue smoke. She became somewhat flustered and stuttered to Lu Changxing, "Second master, I'm sorry, I got a bit nervous." She was normally very cheerful, but in front of Lu Changxing, she couldn't help but feel a touch of nervousness. What's there to be nervous about? I'm not some flood or beast, and I certainly don't eat people. If you fail, just continue, that's all. Lu Changxing couldn't help but smile and waved his hand. Upon hearing Lu Changxing's comforting words and seeing his smile, a blush spread across Li Shi's pretty face, making it hard for her to breathe, and her heart raced. There were many handsome men in the world, but how many were handsome, came from a good family background, and were also a middle-grade talisman master? At least Li Shi hardly ever came across such men in her daily life, so Lu Changxing's smile made her heart flutter more than usual, and her nervousness intensified. Why is your face turning red like a teapot? Lu Changxing saw that her face was red, with a love-struck expression, and was momentarily at a loss for words. I haven't even done anything, and you're already like this? Unknowingly, has my charm become so great? Lu Changxing couldn't help but sigh inwardly. He also suddenly realized that he was no longer his former self. Not only was he handsome, but he was also wealthy and accomplished at a young age. Humph, such a mundane woman. Lu Changxing restrained his smile, his expression indifferent, and he said evenly, "Continue." At that moment, he vaguely understood why Lu Miaoge didn't like to smile and always had an aloof, otherworldly demeanor. This was the trouble of being good-looking. "Yes, second master." Li Shi, hearing these words, quickly nodded, immediately focused her mind, not daring to look too much at Lu Changxing, and started to draw talismans again. Lu Changxing could tell that the two women had a solid foundation in basic talismans. They were almost ready to try drawing lower-grade talismans. However, he had no immediate plans to teach the two women how to do so. Once they started learning to draw lower-grade talismans, most of their time and energy would be consumed in that endeavor. This would undoubtedly interfere with their current work. Better to have the two women continue to lay the foundation until they were completely solid, and then try lower-grade talismans. Soon after, Lu Changxing, with a detached manner, gave the two women pointers on talisman making. The two apprentices felt that this second master explained things more thoroughly and understandably than the senior master, proving extremely beneficial to them. That's enough, practice more on your own during your free time. Wait a while longer, and if you perform well, they'll teach you lower-grade talismans. After drawing them a proverbial carrot, Lu Changxing left the second floor. He could clearly sense that, despite his indifferent demeanor, he couldn't deter the two women's enthusiasm at all. He estimated that with just a wave of his hand, the two apprentices would take the initiative to come forward. Yet, he still had no such intentions. It was still the same reasoning as before. It wasn't necessary and the cost wouldn't be worth the benefit. Speaking of which, does this count as peach blossom luck? Lu Changxing suddenly thought. Thank you, second master. Thank you, second master. The two women, hearing his words, were overwhelmed with joy, and their eyes seemed to brim with tears as they looked at Lu Changxing. Handsome, from a good family, and a middle-grade talisman master, he was the man of their dreams. If only I could marry the second master, Li Shi murmured after Lu Changxing's retreating figure had disappeared. You silly girl, smitten much? Is your heart aflutter? Wang Wu teased. With the second master being so handsome and speaking so kindly, and also as a middle-grade talisman master, don't you like him? Li Shi said defiantly in response to Wang Wu's teasing. Of course I like him, but what good is liking him? We're not worthy of the second master. I'd even be content to marry him as a concubine, Wang Wu said with the same conviction. Li Shi felt a bit disheartened upon hearing this. In the cultivation world where men outnumbered women, young female cultivators were highly prized. People like them naturally had suitors, and many came knocking to propose. But they both had some talent in talisman making, and a future as elementary talisman masters loomed. Once they became talisman masters, even if only elementary, they could expect to marry into a respectable household. But now, before Lu Changsheng, the thought of marriage made them feel inferior. Chapter 76, Meeting the Second Miss Again. Jianghu takes you to read books and taste tea. _1 After coming down from the second floor, Lu Changsheng arrived at the first floor to check the items for sale in the shop. He looked to see if there was anything he wanted. On this trip, he also wanted to buy a magic artifact drawing pen and some supreme talisman paper and supreme spirit ink. While at the third level energy refinement stage, Lu Changsheng had attempted to draw superior grade talismans. But limited by his cultivation level and talisman making tools, his success rate was very low. He only drew a dozen or so to carry with him for emergencies. Not long ago, after breaking through to the fourth level energy refinement, he tried drawing superior grade talismans again, which was still somewhat difficult. He could only draw a few simpler superior grade talismans. And the success rate was only about 40 to 50%. For other talisman masters, this success rate was already quite remarkable. But in Lu Changsheng's view, it was still lacking. Therefore, he thought of buying a better magic artifact pen, and then some supreme quality talisman paper and spirit ink. This way, not only could his success rate improve, but he would also be confident in drawing the more challenging superior grade talismans. Whether he'd sell the talismans was another matter. At least having more superior grade talismans on hand would give him an extra sense of security. Otherwise, what would he do if he encountered unforeseen dangers while traveling between Nine Dragons Market and Qingzhou Mountain? Lu Changsheng began to check the items for sale in the shop. Most of the talismans for sale were of the lower grade, primarily. Then there were basic talismans and middle grade talismans, as well as a few superior grade talismans. In addition to spirit talismans, the shop didn't only have drawing pens, talisman paper, and spirit ink, but also some related raw materials and books on talismans. Then, he looked at the prices of the magic artifact pens, supreme talisman paper, and supreme spirit ink at the talisman making tool counter. Lower grade magical instrument pens, 70 spirit stones. Middle grade magical instrument pens, 200 spirit stones. Superior grade magical instrument pens, 600 spirit stones. Supreme talisman paper comes in different qualities, divided into fine quality and good quality. Fine quality, 50 spirit stones per stack, 10 sheets. Good quality, 30 spirit stones per stack, 10 sheets. Supreme spirit ink also comes in different qualities, divided into fine quality and good quality. Fine quality, 50 spirit stones per box. Good quality, 30 spirit stones per box. So expensive, Lu Changsheng said, unable to help clicking his tongue as he looked at the prices. He had felt quite wealthy before. But looking at the prices, he suddenly realized he was quite poor, especially poor. After buying a middle-grade magical instrument pen, he wouldn't have much left. For my current needs, a middle-grade magical instrument pen is enough, he said. Moreover, unlike ordinary pens, a magical instrument pen is very durable, can be used thousands of times, and I don't need to worry too much about it being damaged, he added. Lu Changsheng stroked his chin, planning to purchase a middle-grade magical instrument pen. After all, such an item could be used for a long time once bought. As for the price of talisman paper and spirit ink, he thought they were quite reasonable, not too expensive. After all, a superior grade talisman could sell for 30 to 50 spirit stones. And a supreme talisman could sell for more than 200 spirit stones. However, being able to sell at such prices was also because of the barriers and difficulties involved. Like Fourth Elder, being a first-grade top-level talisman master, he only sells 3 supreme talismans per month, also due to the high failure rate. After deducting the time and material costs, the profit is limited. Not everyone is like Lu Changsheng, who has a knack for talisman making, as easy as eating and drinking. I'm not in a hurry. Right now, I need the spirit stones to purchase the materials for the 100 Refinements treasure body art. I'll go to Southwest Street tomorrow to see, he said. I'll see if there are any materials suitable for the 100 Refinements treasure body art and if I can sell some talismans to make some money, Lu Changsheng mused to himself. He then asked the shopkeeper, Zhang Shan, about the cost price for items like the magical instrument pens, supreme talisman paper, and spirit ink. Zhang Shan didn't hide the information and told the truth. The cost price for a lower-grade magical instrument pen is 43 spirit stones. The cost price for a middle-grade magical instrument pen is 139 spirit stones, and for a superior-grade magical instrument pen, it is 500 spirit stones. Because the Lu family didn't have an artifact refiner, these were purchased from other places to sell. About the talisman paper and spirit ink, fine quality was made by the Lu family themselves, good quality was both self-made and outsourced using provided materials, and Zhang Shan wasn't clear about the cost. After hearing this, Lu Changsheng nodded, deciding to take a middle-grade magical instrument pen from the shop at cost price when the time came. Then, he inquired about the shop's daily revenue, sales, which talismans sold well, and the prices and quantities of talismans bought from other places, among other things. Lu Changsheng had an idea in mind. If he were to be fully responsible for managing the shop in the future, could he possibly sell all the talismans he had through this shop? For these queries, Zhang Shan responded truthfully, giving Lu Changsheng a good understanding of the spiritual talisman shop. He learned that the business of the spiritual talisman shop was quite good in Nine Dragons Market, generating several thousand spirit stones in revenue each month. It seems that the Lu family's spiritual talisman shop does better business than I imagined, Lu Changsheng thought to himself after gathering the information. After chatting with Zhang Shan for a while, Lu Changsheng didn't continue to ask more questions. He returned to the 3rd floor's rest room, found Lu Miaoge still in the talisman room, and began to meditate and cultivate. As dusk approached, Lu Miaoge came out from the talisman room. She told Lu Changsheng that this was the time when they could usually head home. Although Nine Dragons Market didn't have a curfew, the place would be much quieter at night. After all, cultivators still needed to cultivate and rest. And with Li Shi and Wang Wu living in the shop, they could help keep an eye on things. Afterward, Lu Miaoge took Lu Changsheng to the Lu family mansion in the Eastern District. Chapter 77, Meeting the Second Miss Again. Chinggu takes you to read books and taste tea. From here, it was quite a distance to the Lu family's large compound in the Eastern District. The two of them walked quite fast, and it took almost half an hour. The Lu family's compound covered nearly 2,000 square meters. Compared to the living quarters at Jianghu Valley, it was naturally much smaller. But in the Nine Dragons Market, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, this courtyard was already considered large. Lu Changsheng curiously inquired about how many spirit stones such a large compound would cost from Lu Miaoge. Lu Miaoge was not sure about the exact price. She only said that such large compounds usually started with a lease term of 3 to 5 years. As for the price, it varied from several dozen to 100 spirit stones a year. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. Just the annual rent would cost dozens to hundreds of spirit stones. For buying, wouldn't it require several thousand spirit stones? Indeed, no matter where you were, buying a house was never easy. Upon arriving at the compound, Lu Miaoge asked the house steward if the second elder was home. Now that she brought Lu Changsheng over, it was natural to meet this second elder of the Lu family. The steward indicated that the second elder was resting in the back courtyard, and led the two to meet the second elder. Shortly after, Lu Changsheng saw the second elder of the Lu family. He had white hair but his complexion was very rosy and lustrous, as if he was a baby. A tall figure dressed in a green robe, he leaned on a jade bamboo cane, exuding an imposing aura without being angry. This second elder was in charge of the Lu family business, often abroad. This was the first time Lu Changxing had met him. Second elder. Great uncle. Lu Changxing and Lu Miaoge bowed to the second elder in unison. The second elder nodded, stood up to look at Lu Changxing, and with a slight smile said, "So you are Changxing. At such a young age you have already become a middle-grade talisman master, very good. From now on, in the 9 Dragons market, if you need anything, you can come directly to me," he said. The second elder's generous palm patted Lu Changxing on the shoulder as he spoke. "Yes, second elder," replied Lu Changxing, bowing respectfully. Afterward, the second elder had the steward arrange a room for Lu Changxing. He also mentioned that there would be a banquet in the evening to welcome and cleanse him from his travels, to let him get acquainted with the other Lu family disciples and to encourage him to interact more in the future. Lu Changxing naturally responded respectfully to these words. He knew that as he was now integrating into the Lu family, such social interactions and affairs of human relationship were hard to avoid. Soon after, the steward arranged a small courtyard for him. The courtyard was not big, only a little over 100 square meters, even smaller than the one he had at Jianghu Villa. It had simple formation effects for sound insulation and gathering spiritual energy. The spiritual energy was not as good as in Jianghu Valley, but it was much better than Jianghu Mountain. At night, a servant came to inform Lu Changxing about the banquet. Lu Changxing nodded and proceeded to the hall. As soon as Lu Changxing arrived at the hall, he saw not only the second elder and Lu Miaoge, but also 2 managers of the Lu family of the same generation as Lu Yuanding and 5 Lu family disciples. However, his gaze immediately fell on an incredibly beautiful woman standing next to Lu Miaoge. The woman wore a white crane-embroidered long dress that clung tightly, perfectly outlining her curvaceous silhouette through the fabric, leaving nothing of her graceful figure to the imagination. But beneath the slits of the tailored hem, one could see her long, straight legs sheathed in thin, white silk stockings, which rendered her already fair and smooth legs with an added touch of a high-class, sanctified allure. Her delicate feet wrapped in white silk stockings stepped into a pair of flowing cloud-patterned silver high heels, accentuating her graceful and tall figure even more vividly. This woman was none other than the second young Miss Lu Miaohuan, who had been on a blind date with Lu Changxing once before. Lu Changxing had not expected this second young miss to also be in the 9 Dragons market. And this second young miss had even switched from black to white stockings. It had to be said, the second young miss had a really good figure. Especially those legs, perfectly proportioned. A bit more would be too plump, a bit less would be too skinny, straight and rounded. Whether in black or white stockings, they presented an astoundingly enticing appearance on her. Lu Miaohuan too noticed Lu Changxing, and seeing his gaze linger on her, promptly gave a cold snort, turning her head to look elsewhere. Lu Changxing just smiled and pretended not to notice. He was aware that the second young miss still held a grudge. That was normal. It had only been half a year since their blind date, and he had rejected the second young miss, marrying Lu Miaoyun instead. With the proud temperament of the second young miss, how could she easily forget and not hold a grudge? If it wasn't for the second elder hosting a welcoming banquet, the second young miss probably wouldn't even want to see him, much less show a pleasant expression. However, seeing Lu Miaoge and Lu Miaohuan, the sisters similar in appearance and figure, standing side by side made Lu Changxing's mind wander, thinking what the eldest miss might look if she dressed alike. Or perhaps, the 2 sisters, one in white, the other in black. Lu Changxing dared not entertain the thought any further, immediately suppressing the wild horse of his mind. It was far too exciting, not to be pondered further. If family head Lu Yuanding knew he was entertaining thoughts about his 2 daughters, he might just cleave him with a sword. Second elder, he greeted as he bowed to the second elder. Changxing, let me introduce you to. The second elder naturally saw Lu Miaohuan's small gesture but said nothing. He was aware of the small history between Lu Changxing and Lu Miaohuan. It was precisely this incident that made Lu Yuanding see his daughter restless at home, hence he allowed her to come to 9 Dragons market to find something to do, and also to take her mind off things. Thereupon, under the introduction of the second elder, Lu Changxing got acquainted with the 2 managers of the Lu family, and also with the other 4 Lu family disciples. These individuals, capable of handling affairs in the 9 Dragons market, held not low positions within the Lu family, belonging to the future upper echelon. Chapter 78, Meeting the Second Miss Again. Qingge takes you to read books and taste tea. Aside from Lu Miaohuan, who held a grudge and did not give Lu Changxing a warm reception, the others were all quite enthusiastic. After all, love and hatred never come without reason. Lu Changxing was easygoing, never offending anyone, and as a middle-grade talisman master, naturally, they were willing to be on good terms with him. Especially since these few were aware of Lu Changxing's talent for talisman making, and the Lu family had always been encouraging Lu Changxing to fully integrate, they were naturally more inclined to foster good relations with Lu Changxing and would not do anything to offend him. Thus, Lu Changxing became acquainted with them. Well-fed and in high spirits, everyone left the event. A young man named Lu Miaoqing slung his arm over Lu Changxing's shoulder and said as if they were old friends, "Changxing, since it's your first time out and about, as your host, Brother Qing will take you to read books and taste tea tomorrow." Read books and taste tea? Lu Changxing was stunned. That's right, this tea house is very good, with many famous teas and all kinds of books. Just yesterday, a batch of new teas and books arrived. You won't be disappointed, Lu Miaoqing said with a meaningful look. Brother Qing, this reading books, tasting tea, is it legitimate? Lu Changxing asked with a strange tone in his voice, sensing something off. Lu Miaoqing glanced around and lowered his voice. Don't worry, would I take you to a reputable place? How about it, shall we broaden our horizons tomorrow? Lu Changxing fell silent for a moment. Indeed, he hadn't guessed wrong. This was not a proper read books, taste tea your brother-in-law, for crying out loud. What kind of brother-in-law would take their brother-in-law to broaden their horizons in such a way? Also, you bring this up as soon as I arrive at 9 Dragons Market and want to take me to such a place, isn't that a bit improper? Or is that how you see me in your heart? Lu Changxing thought to himself, then said, Brother Qing, I'm not that kind of person, I don't go to those places. But if you don't see the world, how will you gain experience? This is also a form of cultivation, Lu Miaoqing argued. There's a saying, tea is like a beauty, it should be savored slowly, and a lady is like a book, she should be read carefully. This reading books, tasting tea, is about observing all walks of life, experiencing the various flavors of life, and is the best way to gain life experience. Don't worry, I definitely won't tell Sister Miaoyan about this, Lu Miaoqing assured. Lu Changxing, damn it, a visit to a brothel is being made to sound so classy and pure. Lu Changxing had not expected the Lu family to have such a talented speaker. However, he did feel that there was some truth to what was said. It was indeed a way to gain experience and see the world. When someone travels alone, they should see more of the world, right? Maybe next time, Lu Changxing said after some contemplation. While he wanted to gain experience, the idea of doing such things just upon arriving at 9 Dragons Market gave him a sense of guilt. Moreover, he had more important things to do. He planned to stroll around the loose cultivator marketplace tomorrow. All right then, whenever you want to go, you can look for Brother Qing. I know every corner of 9 Dragons Market, Lu Miaoqing said, patting Lu Changxing's shoulder, feeling a bit bored. He had heard of Lu Changxing's reputation and thought he could find a kindred spirit, but to his surprise, Lu Changxing actually refused. All right, thanks Brother Qing, Lu Changxing nodded, then returned to his room to meditate and cultivate for 2 hours before lying down to sleep. But as he lay in bed, he found it difficult to fall asleep, feeling like something was missing. Sigh, suddenly being alone, I'm not used to it, Lu Changxing sighed softly. Used to cuddling with his wife and concubine each night, the sudden solitude made him feel uneasy and not at peace. He then got up, took out his talisman-making tools from his storage bag, and began drawing talismans. After creating 3 middle-grade talismans, he felt a sense of mental fatigue and took a sip of white jade 100 flowers wine before lying back down and gradually falling asleep. The next day, Lu Changxing got up, had a simple breakfast, and went to find his sister-in-law, Lu Miaoge, to accompany him to the spiritual talisman shop. During the process, he saw Lu Miaohuan again. But she showed no warmth toward him whatsoever. Although she was chatting with her sister, Lu Miaoge, the moment she saw him come over, she immediately let out an icy snort, her face full of disdain. Huan just has that temperament, she doesn't mean any harm, don't take it to heart, Lu Miaoge said, her face showing a hint of apology. Last night, Lu Miaohuan had come to ask her why Lu Changxing had come to Nine Dragons Market. She hadn't hidden anything and had told her sister about the fourth elder's plans to hand over the shop for Lu Changxing to manage. After hearing about the matter, Lu Miaohuan, despite her cold and disdainful remarks about Lu Changxing and his ability to manage the shop, was certain he would succeed. But she who knew her younger sister's personality very well understood. The more she acted like this, the more it indicated her sister was actually concerned about Lu Changxing. If Lu Miaohuan wasn't concerned about Lu Changxing, she wouldn't have acted this way at all. Reflecting on this made her let out a small sigh. If Lu Changxing were just an ordinary cultivator, in time, her sister might gradually forget and not dwell on it. But the problem was, Lu Changxing was no ordinary cultivator. Not only was he handsome, but he also had an exceptional talent in the talisman path, unparalleled and leading the rest by far. With time, he would become a first-grade middle-grade talisman master, a first-grade top-level talisman master, and even a second-grade talisman master. Now, Lu Changxing had come to Nine Dragons Market and met with her sister. Under these circumstances, her sister would constantly have this matter and Lu Changxing on her mind, which would gradually foster a delicate and dangerous sentiment. But when it came to this kind of issue, she didn't know how to advise her sister. Because Lu Miaohuan didn't like being preached to and might even react defiantly. It's fine, the second miss is straightforward, why would I mind? Besides, it was my fault to begin with. Lu Changxing said, shaking his head slightly. He wasn't particularly concerned about Lu Miaohuan's attitude. After all, during the matchmaking encounter, he really did regale her with a bunch of flattery and praise. When she finally agreed, he turned her down, which would understandably vex anyone. Especially given Lu Miaohuan's proud and haughty nature as a young lady. Moreover, Lu Changxing felt that he might have a bit of a bias for good looks. He tended to be more forgiving towards attractive women. As the two walked and chatted, they arrived at the spiritual talisman shop. Lu Changxing told Lu Miaoge that if there was nothing else happening today, he would like to go out and browse around. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoge fell silent for a moment, then said, "You usually spend little time with Miaoqing, don't follow him to unseemly places." Lu Changxing was initially startled upon hearing this, slightly confused, then he couldn't help but curse inwardly. Damn, how bad can Brother Cheng's reputation be? Lu Miaoqing had just slapped him on the shoulder yesterday and exchanged a few words with him. And now, when he mentioned wanting to go out for a stroll, Lu Miaoge suspected that he was planning to go to the tea house with Lu Miaoqing. This left Lu Changxing at a loss for words. He even had the strange impression he might be caught by his wife while visiting a courtesan's quarters. Sister Miaoge, Brother Ching invited me to read and taste tea yesterday, but I outright refused. I just thought I'd wander around and take a look at the loose cultivators market on Southwest Street. Lu Changxing immediately spoke up, distancing himself from any association with Lu Miaoqing. He truly hadn't anticipated that the latter's reputation could be so tarnished. Okay, I'm here at the shop, you go ahead, why not let Li Shi or Wang Wu accompany you? They are very familiar with the marketplace, Lu Miaoge advised without much ado, nodding slightly. No need, I'll just wander around by myself, Lu Changxing waved his hand, indicating it wasn't necessary. He still vividly remembered the way Li Shi and Wang Wu looked at him the day before. So, he didn't want to interact too much and distract his employees from their work. Alright, just be sure to come back before dark. Do you have a transmission talisman with you? If you get lost, you can message me. There are also many guides in the marketplace who specialize in showing people around and directing them to shops. If you want to buy something, you could hire a guide, Lu Miaoge spoke in a soft voice, as if advising Lu Changxing like an elder would. Lu Changxing suddenly felt as if Lu Miaoge was turning into the fourth elder before his eyes, treating him as if he were a child who hadn't experienced the world. Keep in mind, he was the father of 30 children, after all. However, he knew that Lu Miaoge was treating him like a brother or something similar. "Alright, don't worry, Sister Miaoge," Lu Changxing said with a smile, waving his hand. He felt in his heart that if Lu Miaoge truly saw him as a brother, it would make it even more difficult for those feelings to change. Chapter 79, Cat Girl? Fox Lady? Snake Princess? _1 After parting with Lu Miaoge, Lu Changxing wandered around the streets for a while before entering a deserted alley. He took out the human skin mask from his storage bag, put it on, and donned a wide, gray-brown robe. He poured some pre-prepared liquid onto his palm and smeared it over his hands and neck, making his skin appear less fair. In an instant, his handsome and dashing appearance changed into that of an ordinary-looking youth with dark skin. Still, his stature remained tall and slender. This was a basic disguise technique he had learned from Li Feiyu. It wasn't very sophisticated, but it was sufficient for his needs. Then, Lu Changxing took out a talisman from his storage bag and used it on himself, causing his spiritual power aura to retract. A middle-grade aura concealment talisman. Its effects were the same as the aura concealment technique, but it was several times more effective than the aura concealment technique that Lu Changxing had just started to learn. Unless it was an energy refinement late-stage cultivator using the spiritual eye technique, they wouldn't be able to perceive his cultivation level. This was also why Lu Changxing usually didn't spend too much time and energy on cultivating spells. For one thing, it was too time-consuming and effort-intensive. On the other hand, many times, talismans could be used as a substitute. Sigh, sometimes being handsome is also a kind of trouble, he sighed, stepping out of the alley. Lu Changxing's good looks and exceptional aura made him very memorable, which could be problematic. If he were to sell talismans and later be recognized as the owner of the Lu family spiritual talisman shop, it would be awkward to explain. So, it was better to change his appearance and conceal his aura, making him look more ordinary. Although this disguise technique was very basic and even a bit rough, and some people might recognize the disguise, as long as no one saw his true face or remembered him, it should suffice. Having left the alley, Lu Changxing made his way to the entrance of a street. He saw several youngsters squatting there, looking around with signs that read guide. Before he could approach, one of the youngsters came up to him enthusiastically, saying, "Senior, do you need a guide? I grew up in Nine Dragons Market and am very familiar with every area. Whatever you want to know or purchase, I have all the details," the youngster spoke with enthusiasm. Although Lu Changxing had disguised himself and concealed his aura, making him look just like an ordinary person, these youths, who made their living in Nine Dragons Market as guides, naturally had a certain insight. They could tell at a glance that Lu Changxing was interested in hiring a guide. Even if he wasn't interested, at most, it would just be one wasted question, no loss at all. "How much do you charge for your services?" Lu Changxing nodded and asked. "Senior, I only charge 1 spirit stone for a day," the youth immediately replied. A spirit stone weighs 10 liang. After the spiritual energy inside is consumed, the weight will become lighter. During the mining of spirit stones, there will also be some broken fragments known as spirit stone shards. These units of spirit stones are seldom used by cultivators. They are relatively common only in marketplaces like this one. "Okay, then take me around. You have change for spirit stones, right?" Lu Changxing asked upon hearing this and took out a spirit stone he had previously used that weighed around 4 or 5 liang. The youth showed a hint of regret in his eyes but immediately responded enthusiastically, "Yes, I do." After taking and examining the spirit stone, weighing it briefly, he then took out 2 spirit stone shards and handed them to Lu Changxing. The youth then said, "Senior, may I know what you are looking to buy or learn about?" "Take me to the stalls where they trade," Lu Changxing said. "The trading stalls are on Southwest Street." "This way, please, Senior. It's about a half-hour's walk from here to Southwest Street." If you have anything specific you wish to purchase, you can also tell me. I know of quite a few shops where the quality of the items is guaranteed, the youngster continued. As guides, the real money was in taking cultivators to spend in shops. Is there any shop in the marketplace that sells rare treasures and exotic goods? Inquired Lu Changxing. If senior wishes to purchase rare treasures and exotic goods, you can go to Qingyun Commerce Guild and Myriad Treasures Pavilion. Not only are their prices reasonable and their selection vast, but the quality is also guaranteed. If senior wants to spend a little less money, I also know quite a few shops selling rare treasures and exotic goods with guaranteed quality that I can take you to, the youngster said immediately. Even though he wanted to earn money by bringing customers to shops, he wouldn't blindly lead others astray. He couldn't afford to deceive people. After all, he was just a mortal. If he dared to deceive a cultivator and was found out, it would mean certain death. What if I want to sell some talismans? Are there any shops that will buy them? Lu Changxing asked in an even tone. Hearing that Lu Changxing wanted to sell talismans, the youth immediately realized that Lu Changxing might be a talisman master. However, as a guide, he naturally wouldn't inquire further. His job was to provide information. He promptly said with respect, "Senior, most of the spiritual talisman shops in Nine Dragons Market will buy talismans." Then, are there any well-reputed talisman shops in the marketplace? Continued Lu Changxing. Actually, to be able to open a shop in the marketplace, they all have a good reputation, but if we are talking about the best reputation for talismans, naturally it's the Tianfu Pavilion of the Shen family. Their talismans not only guarantee quality, but they also often have special offers. However, they don't usually buy talismans from outsiders. Next would be the shops of families like By Lake Mountains Yu family, Qingzhou Mountains Lu family, Red Leaf Valleys Chen family, and Wugong Ridges Jing family. Their quality and reputation are guaranteed, the youngster said. If senior is looking to buy talisman paper, I would recommend the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain and the Chen family of Red Leaf Valley. Their talisman paper is made with their own materials, which makes it much better than average. Chapter 80, Cat Girl? Fox Lady? Snake Princess? The youth spoke incessantly. Upon hearing Qing Zhu Lu's spiritual talisman shop, Lu Changxing nodded slightly. He knew that what the young man said was quite credible, and it was almost the same as what he had learned yesterday from Zhang Shan's account of the shop. White Jade Tower. At that moment, Lu Changxing saw a quaint and ancient-looking pagod-like building not far away. The sign on the building bore the three characters White Jade Tower, reminding him that Hong Yi had mentioned spending a considerable price to buy his two favored maids, Jior and Shuier, from there. Seeing Lu Changxing's gaze toward the White Jade Tower, the youth immediately spoke. Senior, White Jade Tower specializes in matching matrimonial alliances, introducing wives and concubines, and selling maids. If senior is thinking of taking a wife or concubines, or purchasing maids, you can visit White Jade Tower. White Jade Tower is also an established brand. I've heard that it's not just in Nine Dragons Market, but has branches in many marketplaces and even in Immortal City. The youth spoke, saying this. Oh. Lu Changxing's eyebrows raised on hearing this. He couldn't help but wonder internally if the White Jade Tower, where Hong Yi had purchased Jior and Shuier, and this White Jade Tower were the same establishment. Just different branches? Then the business of this White Jade Tower was indeed quite extensive. The next time he received a letter from Hong Yi, he could ask if it was the same White Jade Tower. Does White Jade Tower have any wives, concubines, or maids with a spiritual root? Lu Changxing inquired. He naturally wouldn't forget about searching for a fairy. After all matters are but passing clouds, and only taking wives, concubines, and bearing children is the true path. He was quite satisfied with Jior and Shuier, whom Hong Yi had gifted him. If he could use money to buy obedient and sensible maids with spiritual root, that would be the best outcome. Of course, there are some with spiritual roots available, but they are a minority. Most are just exceptionally beautiful and have a gracious temperament, either descendants of cultivators or ordinary humans, the youth replied. I've heard that inside White Jade Tower, there are not only women from the human race, but also those from other races and the demon race, although I am not too clear about the specifics and the prices. If Senior is interested, you could go in for more information. The youth spoke again. Not only the human race, but also other races and the demon race. Lu Changxing knew that the two girls Jiu'er and Shu'er sent by Hong Yi were from other races. Now hearing that there were also demon race girls, he instantly thought of creatures like cat girls, fox women, and snake maidens. Lu Changxing gave a nod, not asking further, and kept the white jade tower in his mind. He planned to come back later to take a look and get more information. After all, the women in such a place would likely have hard lives. If he had the ability to help them, he would, saving whoever he could. It would be like saving a life, better than building a 7-tiered pagoda. Thus, Lu Changxing chatted casually with the youth as they walked, gathering various information about the marketplace. The pair finally reached Southwest Street where the loose cultivators set up their stalls for trading. Senior, ahead is Southwest Street, where the loose cultivators freely trade. If you wish to set up a stall, you need to pay a spirit stone for the management fee at the fee collection booth up ahead, the youth told Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing nodded, thinking to himself that this 9 Dragons market really did charge for everything. Even setting up a stall required a payment of a spirit stone as a management fee. He arrived at the entrance of Southwest Street, and immediately saw a street lined with lanterns, with neatly organized stalls on both sides. The throngs of people in the middle, bustling like a market in the secular world, with relentless hawking much livelier than the streets he had passed earlier. That will do, your task is completed. There's no need to follow me anymore, I'll wander around by myself, Lu Changxing said, waving his hand dismissively at the youth. Yes, I take my leave, and I wish Senior great luck and success, that all your wishes come true, and that fortune descends upon you, bringing prosperous and flourishing cultivation, the youth said, bowing and reciting a litany of well wishes. Lu Changxing, unfazed by these blessings, showed no inclination of giving a tip and continued walking into the street. Seeing this, the youth wasn't disappointed. After all, wealthy patrons were few and far between, and it was rare to encounter even a few in a year. Lu Changxing didn't rush to sell talismans. Instead, he decided to take a look around first, to see if there was anything he needed or found interesting, and to understand the local prices. Second-hand vestment robes for sale, practically new and without patches. Red-striped tiger meat, tender and fresh, just slaughtered last night. 10-year-old black truffles, 3 spirit stones per pound, a deal of 10 spirit stones for 3 pounds. Brother, need elixir medicines? Freshly concocted ascension elixirs here, pop one and all worldly troubles will melt away. Each stall was actively advertising their wares. Lu Changxing followed the flow of people, examining each stall in turn. The variety of items for sale was remarkably diverse. It was a far cry from the standards of the market at Bullhead Mountain, vastly superior in the quality of goods on offer. Most of the items were spiritual objects used by cultivators. And thinking about it made sense. After all, if one had to pay a spirit stone just to secure a stall, then selling junk wouldn't earn back even the cost of the stall fee. Lu Changxing examined the goods in great detail, directly purchasing any materials suitable for cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body technique. Because he was cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body technique, he could roughly sense the quality of the spiritual materials, so he wasn't likely to be swindled. As for stumbling upon an incredible bargain, that was almost non-existent, not to mention the low odds, because to use the 100 Refinements treasure body technique to sense the quality of spiritual materials, he needed to touch them. Merely looking wouldn't reveal anything, he didn't have the eye for it. He hadn't even finished browsing half the street when Lu Changxing had already spent half of his spirit stones, all used for purchasing spiritual materials for cultivating the 100 Refinements treasure body technique. Chapter 81, Cat Girl? Fox Lady? Snake Princess? This made him sigh with helplessness. Money really burns fast. Afterward, Lu Changxing restrained himself a bit and focused on observing. If he really wanted to buy something, he decided to look around more and come back later to make a purchase. During this process, Lu Changxing overheard someone haggling, chit-chatting, and debating, and he would stand aside and listen if he found it interesting. In fact, as he wandered and listened along the way, he did indeed learn a great deal and broadened his horizons considerably. Fellow Daoist, I'd like to trade this magic artifact fragment for your item. Would you like to exchange? A magic artifact fragment? May I have a look? What kind of magic artifact fragment is this? It's completely useless, I want trade. At that moment, Lu Changsheng's attention was caught by a conversation at a nearby stall, and he turned to look in that direction. He saw an elegant middle-aged man standing in front of a stall, taking back a black iron lump the size of an egg with a rough surface. Fellow Daoist, you said this is a fragment of a magic artifact. Does this fragment have any effects? A woman in blue stepped forward and politely inquired of the elegant man. Clearly, she also heard about the magic artifact fragment and wondered if she could pick up a bargain. There is no special effect, it's just very hard. I once tried hacking it with my middle-grade flying sword magic instrument, and my flying sword ended up with a notch. The elegant man said with a pained expression on his face. His words immediately sparked curiosity among the others who were paying attention. Being able to notch a flying sword magic instrument meant this was no ordinary scrap. Even if it wasn't a fragment of a magic artifact, it was still an extremely rare material. This esteemed brother, I am willing to offer 20 spirit stones for this fragment, will you sell? Someone spoke up. Won't sell. If you want it, you have to pay at least 100 spirit stones. The elegant man waved his hand dismissively. 100 spirit stones is too expensive, fellow Daoist, I am willing to offer 30 spirit stones. Fellow Daoist, could you use your flying sword to hack it again in front of me? If it really notches the sword, I am willing to offer 40 spirit stones. Another person proposed. However, upon hearing this, the elegant man's face darkened instantly, and he scolded, "Scram! Fellow Daoist, may I take a look at this magic artifact fragment?" In the meantime, Lu Changxing also stepped forward and with a bow, he spoke. His 100 refinements treasure body art required heavenly materials and treasures for cultivation. If the piece in front of him was indeed a fragment of a magic artifact, and he could integrate it into his body for cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, then he wouldn't just offer 100 spirit stones. Even 200, 300 spirit stones, in his view, would be worthwhile. Even if it wasn't a magic artifact fragment, but some kind of heavenly material or treasure, it would still be beneficial for him. 100 spirit stones, not a single spirit stone less. The elegant man handed over the lumpy black iron piece to Lu Changxing. Lu Changxing took the piece, which was cool to the touch and somewhat heavy, weighing at least 20 or 30 pounds. This heaviness of such a small lump of iron also indicated it was out of the ordinary. Lu Changxing slowly operated his 100 refinements treasure body art. His fingertips reddened slightly as he sensed the essence of heaven and earth within the iron lump. He immediately felt that the essence contained within was far more vigorous than any of the materials he had purchased before. Even though he did not know if it was a piece of a magic artifact, Lu Changxing was certain it was a good item and that purchasing it was unlikely to result in a loss. Fellow Daoist, I don't have enough spirit stones on me. Could I use these 2 superior grade talismans to offset some of the spirit stones? Lu Changxing said calmly, taking out 2 superior grade talismans from his sleeve. He currently had only 140 spirit stones left on him. If I buy this shard, I won't have enough spirit stones to buy anything else. So I'll try bartering with goods, while also using up some of the talismans I have on me. As I've wandered around, I've seen quite a few exchanges of goods for goods. After all, most loose cultivators don't carry that many spirit stones on them for transactions. Flying Ascension Talisman, Golden Light Barrier Talisman. The refined man immediately recognized the 2 talismans, his eyes lit up, and he said, I won't take advantage of you, these 2 spirit talismans can offset 70 spirit stones. You just have to give me 30 more spirit stones. The refined man stated very directly. He only guessed that this iron chunk was a fragment of a magical treasure but wasn't certain himself. It had been put up for sale several times, and he had sought appraisals, but no one was willing to pay a high price for it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for only 100 spirit stones. Seeing that Lu Changxing was interested, he was of course very willing to sell. Alright, but I'd like to see the notch on this iron chunk that you said was chopped by flying swords. If it's true, they'll make the deal immediately, Lu Changxing spoke. The prices for these 2 talismans were roughly 30 spirit stones each, and the other party was indeed sincere. However, although he knew the iron chunk was valuable, he couldn't let on as if he had made a huge gain, as that could raise suspicions. Sure. Upon hearing this, the refined man took out a deep blue flying sword from his storage bag. Pointing to a small notch on it, he sighed and said, "You see, this notch is the one I regretfully made with a casual chop." Lu Changxing could see that there was a notch as wide as a finger in the middle of the flying sword. He nodded immediately, handed over the 2 talismans to the man, and took out 30 spirit stones, saying, "All right, in that case, I'll take the shard." Good. The fellow cultivator is decisive. The refined man accepted the talismans and spirit stones, his face showing delight as he gave a bow. Lu Changxing also bowed slightly, tucked away the iron shard, and continued to stroll around. TSK, someone actually spent 100 spirit stones on this so-called magical treasure shard. This iron piece, able to notch a flying sword, is indeed good material, it's just too small. If it were really worth that much, he would have taken it to the Myriad Treasures Pavilion for appraisal and sale by now. Would he have asked for just 100 spirit stones? Even if it is indeed a fragment of a magical treasure, it must be from a large magical artifact, otherwise, there wouldn't be a complete lack of enchantments. That's correct, such fragments of magical treasures are not so easy to melt down. This thing, those who could use it wouldn't want it, and those who would want it can't use it. Indeed, it's of no use to us energy refining cultivators. Who knows, maybe the buyer has some other clever use for it. A few people nearby saw this scene and started discussing it aloud. Lu Changxing heard the whispers but didn't mind them. After all, someone had a point, he indeed had another extraordinary use for it, planning to use it for cultivation. I'm not even sure if this thing is a piece of a magical treasure, but if it is, and I can incorporate it into my body for cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, then I've really made a small fortune. As long as I complete the first layer of the 100 refinements treasure body art, my body will be as strong as a lower grade magical instrument, and at that time, my physical body will undergo a qualitative improvement. Lu Changxing thought to himself. After half a year of nurturing, his physical body had already become much stronger than before. But there was still a significant distance to go before the first layer of the 100 refinements treasure body art, refining his body to the level of a lower grade magical instrument. There was no helping it, body refinement techniques are time-consuming and expensive to practice. And the 100 refinements treasure body art is far superior to ordinary body refinement techniques. He had only been practicing it for a little over half a year. Having spent over 100 spirit stones on materials before, and now another 100 on this magical treasure shard, Lu Changxing worried he might attract unwanted attention and decided to leave Southwest Street immediately. Although Nine Dragons Market was well regulated under the protection of Qingyun sect, ensuring good security, it was still best to be cautious in all matters. Chapter 82, Young Master, are you here for pleasure? _1 Leaving Southwest Street, Lu Changxing did not head straight back. Instead, he found an inn on a nearby street and spent a spirit stone to rent a room. Once in the room, Lu Changxing took out a middle-grade purification talisman from his storage bag and used it on himself. Cultivators have a multitude of spells and techniques at their disposal, many of which can leave behind marks on others for tracking purposes. This purification talisman was capable of dispelling and cleansing such tracking marks and imprints. Seeing that the talisman had no effect on him, Lu Changxing also breathed a sigh of relief. Knowing he was not being tracked. After all, last time had left Bullhead Mountain after selling some items, he was targeted immediately upon descent. It was still wise to be cautious and careful. Lu Changxing could even feel that his 2 years of comfortable life with the Lu family had caused him to lose some of that cautiousness that he had when he first arrived, always feeling as if he were walking on thin ice. Hence, he constantly reminded himself to stay alert and be aware of potential dangers even when in a safe environment. Otherwise, there's no telling when danger might strike. After resting in the room for half an hour, Lu Changxing left with a human skin mask on. He still had the same dark, unremarkable appearance. After all, looking ordinary made it less likely for one to be remembered. Stepping out of the inn, Lu Changxing returned to Southwest Street. Having spent so many spirit stones today without any income, it was natural that he wouldn't return so quickly. He was planning to sell some items in exchange for spirit stones. He continued to stroll along the street he had previously walked. Since he had already bought many spiritual materials needed for the 100 Refinements treasure body technique, enough for some time of cultivation, he didn't buy any more. After all, it was necessary to keep some spirit stones on hand for emergencies. Then, he saw a stall selling books. He spent 2 spirit stones and bought a dragon locking secret technique and a jade room essential arts. They taught how to enhance that certain ability and how to retain yang energy and blood during moments of pleasure, reducing energy loss. These were just common bedroom arts, not any cultivation techniques or secret techniques. Otherwise, they would not be sold for such a price. In Lu Changsheng's opinion, these things were just for fun. Real dual cultivation secret techniques and cultivation techniques would have to come from the system. After browsing around enough, Lu Changxing went to a stall at the corner of the street to pay a spirit stone and start his own stall. The cultivator at the payment stall gave him a wooden plaque. The plaque bore a number, corresponding to a stall location where he could set up shop for 3 days. Having taken the plaque, Lu Changxing found his designated spot and sat down. He took out a stack of talismans. There were 30 lower-grade talismans and 5 middle-grade talismans in total. While he was wandering around earlier, he had also taken a look at other talisman-selling stalls. He knew he couldn't put out too many, or it would attract undue attention. Then, he laid out 3 items he had acquired from 3 robber cultivators on Bullhead Mountain: a flying sword, a flying dagger, and a bell. Since he had the green face sword and plenty of talismans by his side, he had no use for these 3 magic artifacts and naturally chose to sell them for cash. As for the 3 storage bags he had previously obtained, one he used for miscellaneous items, and another for talismans, he wasn't selling them just yet as they might come in handy later. After marking prices on all the items, Lu Changxing waited for business to pick up. However, an hour passed by. Every now and then, people glanced at his stall, but most had little interest. He only sold 5 or 6 talismans. My stall's location isn't good, it's too far back. And in a place like 9 Dragons Market, there are too many people selling talismans and magic artifacts. It's too competitive, and most rely on the reputation and customers they've built up over time. Even though my prices are a bit lower than other stalls, I still can't compete unless I lower them even more. But a slight reduction is useless. I'd have to drop the prices significantly, and that would clearly disrupt the market and attract unwanted attention. After selling for quite a while without moving many items, a hint of impatience arose in Lu Changxing, and he stood up to pack up and leave. He planned to see if he could find any buyers for talismans and magic artifacts. A lower price would be fine. Otherwise, relying on setting up a stall, who knows when he would manage to sell everything. I have 30 lower-grade talismans and 5 middle-grade talismans. Will you buy them? No. 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 What price are you offering? After asking 4 stalls, one of the owners spoke up. 10% off your current asking price, Lu Changxing said. Too high, 50% off, and they'll take them all, the stall owner countered. Forget it then, I might as well sell them myself. Lu Changxing turned to leave immediately. Damn it, there was a limit to being cutthroat. He couldn't believe the owner had the nerve to say 50% off. Brother, 60% off, the stall owner called out as Lu Changxing walked away. 80% off, Lu Changxing paused. How about this, let's meet halfway at 70% off, the stall owner suggested. Lu Changxing hesitated for a moment, then nodded, all right. He took out the stack of talismans for the owner to count. He suddenly felt a twinge of guilt toward Hong Yi. He was selling talismans here at a 30% discount. Yet, he only gave a 20% discount to Hong Yi. Based on the market price, that's 80 spirit stones in total. At 70% off, that would be 56 spirit stones. The stall owner calculated the price after counting the talismans. Deal. Lu Changxing completed the transaction and quickly left Southwest Street. He changed his appearance again and found 4 spiritual talisman shops to sell his talismans. Considering his own identity issues and not being proficient enough in changing appearances, Lu Changxing chose not to approach the larger talisman shops. The shops he found all seemed relatively small. The buying price for talismans was around 70% off. And so, Lu Changxing sold a total of 145 lower-grade talismans and 60 middle-grade talismans at 5 different spiritual talisman shops. These boots are a middle-grade magic artifact, crafted using the fur of a green wind wolf demon beast. They come with 6 major effects: size adjustment to fit, dust avoidance, self-concealment, light body, stepping over waves, and the wind control skill, the shopkeeper promptly explained. Middle-grade magic artifact? Lu Changxing gave a slight nod as he asked, may I try them on? Of course, you can. The shopkeeper replied with a smile. He took out the magic boots from the counter to let Lu Changxing try them on. The boots weren't heavy, quite thin and soft, and lined with fine fur inside. Upon putting them on, Lu Changxing's initial feeling was of utmost comfort, softness as if they were barely there, and it seemed as if his whole body had become much lighter. That was the weight-lightening effect of the boots. It was as if he had a permanent light body skill acting on him. As for stepping over waves and the wind control skill, when activated, they would allow him to move swiftly over water and greatly enhance his wind control skill, respectively. How much for this pair of boots? Lu Changxing inquired. He was quite satisfied with these boots, not just in terms of style and effect but also due to their comfort. If he were to encounter trouble in the future, these boots would allow him to make a quicker escape. This is also the first sale of the day for our shop. The original price was 210 spirit stones, but since we just did business with you, friend, it will be 200 stones for you, the shopkeeper stated. That's too expensive. A normal middle-grade magic artifact goes for just 150 spirit stones. Would you sell for 140? Lu Changxing went straight into bargaining. Just now, when he offered his 3 artifacts, the other party's opening bid was 30 spirit stones each. It was obvious there was a lot of room for negotiation. And besides, forget about his previous lives' purchasing experiences, just from his most recent rounds of shopping, he knew well that bargaining was essential. If you agree too readily to what the seller says, they might even talk behind your back and consider you a sucker. That's too low. Not only is this pair of boots made from the pelt of a green wind wolf, it also contains spiritual silkworm thread. The craftsmanship, dyeing, and embroidery of the magic circles are all extremely meticulous. If friend is interested, I can go as low as 195 spirit stones. The shopkeeper recounted a litany of features and made a counteroffer. Eventually, after some haggling, Lu Changxing managed to get the boots for 160 spirit stones. After purchasing the boots, Lu Changxing took another look around the shop, to see if there were any artifacts suited for his use. He felt his means were too limited and that he needed to arm himself with more methods of self-protection. He then spent 63 spirit stones and 210 spirit stones in the shop to buy a lower-grade magic artifact, 100 Changes Mask, and a middle-grade magic artifact, Chill Jade Spiritual Pendant. The 100 Changes Mask, once tailored to the face, could be freely altered to another visage, and unless it was a cultivator in the late stages of spirit refinement using the spiritual eye technique, nobody could detect anything. With this magical mask, he needn't bother buying ordinary human skin masks anymore. And the chill jade spiritual pendant, when worn, provided clear-mindedness, concealed spiritual power, masked one's aura, and shielded against divine sense probing. Moreover, in dangerous situations, it could passively generate a body-protecting shield capable of withstanding a hit from a cultivator at the middle stage of chi refinement. "Take care, friend," the shopkeeper said, smiling while he saw Lu Changxing out of the store. "Sigh, money really burns a hole in your pocket, doesn't it?" After exiting the shop, Lu Changxing sighed. Just a while ago, he thought the substantial sum he had would last a long time. But in the blink of an eye, he had almost spent all the money from selling talismans and magic artifacts, with only a little over 100 spirit stones left. He didn't have enough to buy new artifacts or materials for talismans. Isn't money meant to be spent anyway, and you can't skimp on upgrading your equipment? In about 10 days to half a month, he'll come back and sell another batch of talismans, and then he'll have money again. Chapter 84, Young Master, are you here for pleasure? Lu Changxing let out a breath and went to another inn to open a room. He used a purification talisman to check if he was marked for tracking. Once he confirmed that he wasn't being followed, Lu Changxing put on the human skin mask, and with a slight shift of his mental spirit, his face turned into the likeness of Li Feiyu. "It's really worthy of being a magic artifact. With this I don't need to change my appearance anymore." Lu Changxing looked at himself in the mirror, whose features shifted continuously, and he couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. It was a pity that this mask was just a lower-grade magical instrument. The changes in appearance, once scrutinized by a cultivator at the energy refinement late stage using the spiritual eye technique, would reveal some inconsistencies. However, it didn't matter. At that time he could just wear another human skin mask. After all, as long as his real face couldn't be recognized, it was fine. After all, with a lower-grade magical instrument, what else would one need a bicycle for? Lu Changxing used the human skin mask to transform into an ordinary face and walked out of the inn. Then he turned left and right, returning to his own face in an alleyway. He was dressed in a Jianghu embroidered robe with green wind boots, handsome and elegant as if a graceful pine was charming the wind. Just as Lu Changxing was about to leave the alley, a voluptuous woman walked out of a small courtyard nearby, wearing only a thin, pink gauze garment that accentuated her curves, revealing creamy white fragrant shoulders. Upon seeing Lu Changxing, her eyes lit up, and she couldn't help but smile coquettishly, saying softly, "Is the young master here to seek pleasure?" Lu Changxing's face was full of question marks. "Since the young master is here, why not come in and experience it for yourself? For just 5 spirit stones, this slave can give the young master the ultimate pleasure," the woman said in a tender voice, her seductive eyes like silk, reaching out her fair, jade-like hand to pull Lu Changxing, giving him a tingling sensation as if he had been electrocuted. Particularly the bewitching, musk-like fragrance emanating from her body was highly seductive, making one's heart restless and desiring to lose oneself in the land of beautiful women. At the same time, the cold jade spiritual amulet worn on Lu Changxing's chest produced a clear spiritual energy that suppressed the restlessness he was feeling. Bewitching technique. Lu Changxing immediately became wary, realizing the woman in front of him was using a bewitching technique on him. He hastily stepped back, shaking his head and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm just passing by."